Bellbrook City. After witnessing the poisonous mist quickly spreading around the area, Wizard Billy Woods immediately picked up his speed. Within seconds, he arrived at the spot to dispel that poisonous gas. Next, Wizard Billy glanced at the culprit who was responsible for this destruction. Leon Willie. He muttered while gnashing his teeth in anger. There is no need to say anything. Wizard Billy knows that the poisonous mist must have killed lots of people here. This madman. He had never expected him to crawl out of his hideout. It's like Leon Willie is taking the initiative to meet him. Wizard Billy's heart was boiling in anger. This subway area alone suffered a huge loss of lives and destruction. He has no clue about the other areas. Before taking action, the Wizard Billy looked at the floating body beside Leon Willie. He recognized the person at one glance. Then he quickly found other members who were looking at him for help. Sigh. Fortunately, everyone is alive, Wizard Billy said with a sigh. Seeing that Leon Willie didn't take them seriously, he thought about something. An overwhelming pressure was then released upon Leon Willie by a level 5 wizard. The poisonous mana leaking from Leon's weak body froze at the same spot. Leon Willie couldn't lift his finger under humongous pressure. Such an unexpected move from a level 5 wizard made his expression unsightly. Even though he wanted to face a level 5 wizard head-on, the level of mana difference still makes him a little bit afraid. There is a huge gap between the level 4 and level 5 limits. But all Leon Willie needs is a moment of opportunity. If he can somehow injure Wizard Billy with his poison attack, then the results will be the same as with Tyler Dixon. He doesn't need to worry anymore. He can sit back and watch him die. Before that, he needs to get close to Wizard Billy. That's why he captured Tyler Dixon's subordinate as a hostage. On the other hand, due to opposing pressure from a level 5 wizard, it immediately cancelled out Leon Willie's control over Alan Pitts. Because of that, Alan Pitts' unconscious body dropped down on the ground directly. Leon Willie gritted his teeth in helplessness, but as long as Alan Pitts' body was close to him, he was not afraid of Wizard Billy. Under this pressure, he can't do much. But as a level 4 wizard, he is quite confident in killing Alan Pitts. Simultaneously, Lottie, Pam, and Jimmy were watching the situation unfold nervously. 3 of their eyes were glued to Alan Pitts' body. If the department head makes a chance for them, 3 of them are ready to get back Alan Pitts' body. The atmosphere becomes solemn for a moment. The department head continues to exert pressure on rogue wizard Leon. At this point of time, the street had already turned empty. The remaining survivors had already fled in fear. The apartment buildings were destroyed. Burnt smoke can be seen rising from the buildings. The department head and the rogue wizard continued to stare at each other. Upon seeing their confrontation, Lottie suddenly thought of something. It's known that rogue wizard Leon has a weak body. Maybe the department head wants to injure him by using the mana pressure alone, Lottie mumbled under her breath. It was heard by Jimmy and Pam. Jimmy nodded his head and said, "It's possible." Only Pam remained silent, her mind occupied with doubts about the cure. Since their department head came to their rescue, it's only a matter of time before rogue wizards get apprehended. But Pam doesn't know it's an appropriate time to talk about it. Because their confrontation is not over yet, it's just getting started. Simultaneously, Wizard Billy asked while exerting pressure, let go of my subordinate. Otherwise you will die horribly. He doesn't want to be hasty on this. Who knows what he is hiding under his robe? There is a possibility for him to have artifacts on his body. So Wizard Billy carefully observed the situation. On the other hand, Leon sneered in his heart, "Oh, why would I do such foolish action?" He didn't say it openly due to a damaged vocal cord. But his facial reactions were enough to convey the message. A slight glint flashes in Wizard Billy's eyes. He slowly landed on the ground and looked towards the other 3 members who were waiting for his order. Wizard Billy said, "You 3 go back to the office. I'll rescue him." He didn't want any of them to stay near the rogue wizard. Because he still couldn't figure out where Leon's confidence came from. He feels something is fishy. To be safe, he felt it was best for all 3 of them to leave this place. Lottie and Pam looked at each other. They obviously don't want to go. But they can't deny his orders. Suddenly, Jimmy Herman mustered up his courage and asked, "Department head, what about the cure? We need to save Captain Tyler Dixon." Lottie and Pam became silent. In particular, Pam. She is glad that Jimmy raised the question about the cure. On the other hand, various thoughts run through Lottie's mind. She felt they had already wasted so much time in the city. Even if they got a cure, she was not sure whether Wizard Mitchell could save Captain Tyler's life or not. Wizard Billy didn't want to spoil their mood now. So he replied, "I'll interrogate him. So don't worry about it. After saying that, he then signaled them to leave immediately. They left after taking one last look at Alan Pitts. At the same time, a creepy laughter came from behind Wizard Billy's back. Hem. Leon Willie let out a creepy laugh even under this pressure. Next, seeing him distracted, a small smile rose on Wizard Billy's face. Wizard Billy raised his hand to control metal mana. Soon, silver-colored mana gathered together. A huge metallic wall formed in the blink of an eye. Seeing that, Leon Willie stopped laughing as his senses screamed in fear. He quickly tried to control Alan Pitt's unconscious body. But under this enormous pressure, it will take a few more seconds to gain control. Leon Willie didn't want to wait that long. He was well aware that a level 5 wizard could injure in the blink of an eye. Next, a fierce glint flashes in his eyes. Leon Willie takes out a poison bottle from his pocket. All he needs to do is smash this bottle or throw it at Alan Pitt's body. Seeing some stuff in Leon Willie's hands, Wizard Billy became crazy. He immediately controlled the metallic wall. The metallic wall dashed towards Leon Willie's direction at a breakneck speed. Even for Leon, it's getting hard to track the object. When the metallic wall reached above them, Wizard Billy decisively broke the wall into two. One piece falls under Leon, and the other wall shields Alan Pitt's body from Leon Willie. Leon Willie's pupils constrict by seeing the speed of the metallic wall coming towards him. He decisively throws the poison bottle at Alan Pitt's body. When the poison bottle was one step away from hitting the target, all of a sudden, a huge metallic wall was directly planted on the ground. And the poison bottle lands a hit on the metallic wall. The bottle broke into pieces, resulting in the spilling of purple-colored poison all over the wall. Seeing that he missed the target. No! Leon Willie screamed in anger through his damaged vocal cords. But then another metallic object fell on his body. Bang! A loud, crushing sound resonates in the area. In a blink of an eye, Wizard Billy came near Alan Pitt's body. Seeing that Alan didn't suffer any other injuries except the sleeping spell cast on him, he let go of his uneasiness. He picked up his body and retreated back in the blink of an eye. Wizard Billy glanced in Leon Willie's direction. He knew that the impact alone had caused him severe damage. Next, looking at Alan's face, he dispelled the sleeping spell. Alan Pitts opened his eyes to see him. "Department head," he uttered. "All right, there is no need to talk. I ordered everyone to gather at the branch office. You go and join them. I'll be dealing with this piece of SHT, Wizard Billy said. Various questions popped up in Alan Pitt's mind. But right now the department head's order is lingering in his ears. He stood up from the ground. After nodding at the department head, he used his extreme speed magic to escape from this place. Seeing that everything has settled down, Wizard Billy breathed in relief. Next, he needs to take care of this culprit. Wizard Billy's whole demeanor changed. Again, he manipulated mana to create several metallic walls. Next, 4 walls are planted on the ground one by one in 4 directions by surrounding Leon Willie completely. The only way for him to escape this place was to either climb up the wall or directly fly over it. In both cases, it's impossible for Leon Willie to do it. Neither can he use his weak body to climb up the wall, nor does he have flight ability. Next, the purple poison on one of the walls caught his attention. Alternatively, branch office. At this point, the branch office was under a state of alarm. The branch office wizards received reports about rogue wizards causing havoc among the public. But the problem was they didn't know it was a level 4 wizard. And the leader of the investigation team here is a level 3 fire wizard. These guys seek nothing but death. Fortunately, Ms. Eva and her team reached the branch office in time. Ms. Eva told them that their captain level 4 wizard was taking care of the scene. She simply lied about it, and Leon Willie's information was also confidential, so she didn't reveal it either. The leader from the branch office was smart. There are 4 people at level 3 level, and their captain is at level 4 level. It's the typical squat style of people from headquarters. The branch office people didn't create any more trouble, they went back to minding their own business. Ms. Eva didn't enter the branch office. Rather, she sat outside with others in the waiting area. The atmosphere was solemn. All of them were looking at their communication watches. Everyone was nervous, they didn't know what was happening out there. They really met with bad luck. "I hope they are doing fine," Betty Fry said in a solemn tone. Shelley Lang commented, "We should have gone there to help them." Ms. Eva Rich added by saying, "Don't worry. The department head will rescue them in no time. Remember, level 5 wizards have flight ability. He will reach that place in a few minutes." Ms. Eva's words convinced everyone. At the same time, Ms. Eva begins to contemplate. From the beginning, she knew this mission was not simple. The department head had to issue an emergency mission like this. She knew he was up to something. Suddenly, another message popped up on the chat server. All four of them looked at the message through their communication watches. Gasps! Betty Fry was shocked to the core. Shelley Lang and Noelle Grant's faces changed dramatically. They were completely panic-stricken by reading Lottie Ewing's message. Because, like Jimmy said to her, Lottie simply typed a level 4 wizard in reply. There are no follow-up messages. Betty immediately turned towards her friend Eva and asked, "Is this a joke or what? Eva, can you tell me what's going on?" Immediately, Shelley and Noelle also turned to look at Eva Rich. Because the message was no joke. If Alan's team was really facing a level 4 wizard, then nothing but death awaits them. A slight glint flashes in Miss Eva's eyes. Sure, so he came here to capture Leon Willie, Eva said in her heart. Earlier, the department had ordered them to wait at the branch office. On the other hand, he was going towards the other team. Miss Eva felt at that time that the department head must have known something. Sigh. She let out a deep sigh. Then, looking at the panic-stricken faces of her teammates, she replied, "This is an emergency mission. And a level 5 wizard is personally taking up the charge. With these two things alone, you should have guessed it earlier. Little Stargate High School. Guest room South End." After witnessing such a great duel, everyone wanted to know who would be the next one to participate. I'm not any different. I want to see the abilities of the top mages in our class. But all of a sudden, Mr. Freeman exited the room in a hurry. I noticed his expression was not right. I don't know what is going on, but I feel he was summoned by higher-ups. Then Fatty and I converse with each other. There are still some annoying people who fix their gazes on me. Since I'm not in any mood to quarrel, I didn't mind them and continued to talk with Fatty. 5 minutes later, Mr. Freeman walks back inside. Seeing him, everyone stopped talking, including me. I saw a slight disappointment in Mr. Freeman's eyes. Seeing that, several questions rose in my heart. Mr. Freeman looked at everyone before saying, the chairman was impressed by our elite class performances, but he wanted to unearth the hidden talent in our school. So the next duels will be from other classes. When he finished his words, everyone was shocked in disbelief. A slight glint flashes in my eyes. A hidden talent? What does he mean? Chairman, I heard from Ms. Rivers that both of our organizations scared him greatly. Does he want to make some changes? So that his nightmares won't be repeated in the future. My lips formed an arc. It looks like the chairman is going to be involved in this issue. I thought he would hand over the task to the new headmaster. But this is also good for me. His constant involvement in school activities will keep others from plotting something. In particular, some arrogant students in our class will have to show some restraint. Seeing me smiling, Lucas asked, brother, what is it? Hearing that, I glared at him. If I say something odd in response, it will be heard by others. Which is not good. So I simply shook my head and said nothing. Then I glanced at other students ranked between 5th and 10th in our class. Unlike others, these guys are obviously happy. They can keep their rank for now. I want to go back right now. Since there is going to be no duel from Class A1, then what's the point of staying here? I can see the chairman's intention is good. But at this point, it's not necessary. Wizards in other classes don't have the proper experience and skills. Their duel will be boring. It would be good if they showed off their magic power and corresponding spells on stage. I see everyone's a little bit impatient. If not for Mr. Freeman's presence, I guessed everyone would have walked out. Suddenly, a loud announcement came. Chairman Benjamin was impressed by Class A1. Right now, he decided to give an opportunity to other classes. Wizards who think that they can also reach the level of Class A1 wizards. They can step forward and use the Star Battle platform stage to pose a challenge. The announcement was long, but the meaning was easy to understand. If I was in Class A2 right now, I would have stood up without hesitation. The announcement brought a small exclamation among the people. All of the wizards came here to watch elite class performance. But this announcement completely caught them off guard. Everyone became excited all of a sudden. It's not like they can beat the Class A1 wizards. But wizards from other classes wanted to attract the chairman's attention. If they can perform better, they will have a chance to enter Class A1. I smiled at the cheering students in the observer area. Earlier, Mr. Freeman spoke about hidden talent. So not everyone can impress the chairman. I wonder whether anyone had the guts to step up. Not only me, everyone here didn't complain. Suddenly, at the observer area, a female wizard stood up from the seat and exited the observer area in front of everyone's eyes. I don't know whether she is going to challenge anyone or not. Soon, she walked towards the Star Battle platform. Her appearance can be seen clearly through the projection screen. Class A3, I muttered as I examined her badge. I thought Palmer would raise his hand, said Lucas Brad. Hearing that, I shake my head in denial. I knew Palmer's status, but he did not come under the category of hidden talent. I can't use the probe function at this distance. If not, I have already analyzed, like the previous duel between Victoria and Frank. While talking about them, I take a glance at them. Instead of watching, Frank is conversing with his friends. Same with Victoria and others. Brentdale and Dannyquin maintained their silence as usual. When I was glancing around, I heard a cold snort from behind. Harumph. Hearing that, I quickly turned around to see Liam and his useless group. I mumbled under my breath. Suddenly, I thought about something before coming out of the class. I felt these guys were up to something. Now that the situation has changed, they are probably pissed off by this. Upon perceiving my gaze, Liam's face turned further ugly. Other than smiling, I didn't say anything to this group. Next, I returned to my usual position. Because the girl was already standing on stage. She is going to challenge someone next. Everyone's eyes were set on her. Hi, I'm Judy Owens from Class A3. My magic power is called Glass Physique, she said. Except for Class A3, a loud exclamation reverberates throughout the area. Guest room north end. A few minutes ago. Mr. Eric Wallace is looking forward to the next duel. He doesn't know who is watching the duel from the West End guest room. He hopes that today's duel will further strengthen their position as the elite class in everyone's hearts. At this time, the announcement came all of a sudden. Hearing that, Mr. Eric stood up from his chair in disbelief. Chairman Benjamin, he uttered in surprise. Earlier, Mr. Eric Wallace guessed it was the new headmaster. But he wasn't expecting Mr. Chairman himself to come here as well. At this point in time, everyone stopped talking, including Ms. Rivers. After recalling the announcement one more time, Mr. Eric thought to himself, what's wrong with the chairman? What is he up to now? Various questions popped up in his mind. He sat back in the chair and fell into contemplation. On the other hand, Ms. Adriana Rivers' eyes lit up with surprise. She didn't expect such a thing to happen here. Suddenly, images of Vincent and Lucas flashed before her eyes. There was a hint of sadness. If this had happened earlier, as a class teacher, she would have been delighted. Because she knew Vincent wouldn't miss a chance like this. But unfortunately, he has already entered Class A1. She begins to think about other students in her class. From this announcement, she can infer something. She believes the chairman is looking to see if there are any wizards like Vincent hidden in their school. But Ms. Rivers knew Vincent and Lucas' situation was different. It's not the same case with others. The other A-class wizard students have either low talent or trashy magic power. She doesn't know whether anyone is really hidden among the students. Judy, a A3 class teacher Ron exclaimed loudly all of a sudden. Hearing that, Mr. Eric retracted his thoughts and observed the situation down below. Same with Ms. Rivers and the other class teachers. Everyone was surprised to see someone from Class A3 stand up for the challenge. Mr. Eric Wallace asked, Class teacher Ron, who is she? A slight glint flashes in Ms. Rivers' eyes. Not even students from her class went forward. But this little girl stood up to the challenge. She was impressed by her courage. But she doesn't know about her. Suddenly, hearing Mr. Eric's question, she also shifted her attention towards Mr. Ron. Mr. Ron sighed and said, she is my student. Her name is Judy Owens. She has middle-low talent, but her magic ability is unique. She has the ability to transform her body into glass. Everyone took a deep breath after hearing that. I remember now, her magic was another peculiar variant of physique, Mr. Eric said. Some time ago he heard from others about this girl. Unfortunately, in our world, most of the unique magic does not have a mental cultivation method. So, based on her middle-grade talent alone, she was sent to A-rank class. Ms. Rivers was shocked to the core. She really underestimated the other classes. Unique magic users, she obviously heard about them. But getting a suitable mental method for them is tricky. Pity, it's even hard to find a simple human-grade mental method for them, she mumbled under her breath. When Mr. Eric heard her words, he nodded and commented, you are right, Ms. Rivers, it's difficult to come across human-grade mental methods. That's why many organizations don't even recruit unique ability users. At the same time, Mr. Eric also knew that unique magic users were the favorite experiment objects for dark wizards. In this world, if you don't have a suitable cultivation method to practice, then you are no different from human beings. To practice, at least one should have a human-grade mental method. Next, he looked at that girl in helplessness. Again, a hint of sadness flashes in Ms. Rivers' eyes. She had good talent, but she had awakened unique magic. Ms. Rivers made up her mind to inquire about this with her connections. Suddenly, she thought of something. She didn't recall exactly, but a few years ago she heard her colleague talk about an organization that specifically recruits unique users. She also decided to check up on this. Guest room West End. Chairman Benjamin's move surprised everyone. After the announcement was made by his assistant, he waited for someone to step forward. When the girl from Class A3 stood up, his assistant had already placed her information in front of him. After reading her information, his eyes lit up with surprise. Glass magic or physique magic? A series of questions popped up in his mind. But by the time Judy Owens introduced herself in front of everyone, hearing that, he muttered, physique variants? He began to compare other physique variants with wizards in his mind. Power Mage and Tank Mage are two examples. One is focused on all-around combat strength, and the other one is purely focused on defensive power. Chairman Benjamin had already inferred the magic ability from her words. Human physique will turn into glass physique, he said. Then he again looked at her information. It's been a year, but she didn't have any mental method to practice. Then how can she decide to pose a challenge? His expression condensed. This girl? For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Chairman Benjamin immediately told his assistant that he wanted to meet her right now. The assistant cried in his heart. But he nodded at him before making the announcement. Miss Judy Owens, Chairman Benjamin, wants to meet you right now. So please come to the West End guest room. Judy Owens, stunned by the sudden announcement, she quickly collected her thoughts and exited the platform. Most people don't know whether to laugh or cry upon seeing such an ongoing drama. Chairman Benjamin didn't want to talk about his plan before appointing the new headmaster. That's why he can't clarify people's confusion right now. Judy Owens stepped inside the room. She immediately saw a person sitting in the main chair. There was also a person standing beside him. Judy immediately guessed that this person sitting in the main chair was the chairman of our school. Then Judy didn't waste any time. She greeted him with a bow. Chairman Benjamin nodded and said, "Okay, kid, I'll come straight to the point. I read your information. You have everything except a good mental method. Am I right?" Hearing that, Judy hurriedly nodded. But sadness can be seen from her expression. Chairman Benjamin then commented, "Your situation is not as serious as other unique magic users. You still have hope. Because your magic is glass physique, not simply glass magic." Hearing that, Judy Owens got dumbstruck. Even her class teacher, Ron, gave up on her. But on the other hand, the chairman is saying there is hope. Her mind went blank for a moment. What's up with that, Chairman? The new developments have been confusing so far. I can see the chairman is trying to make some changes. But stopping the challenge duel did not sit well with me. I saw the girl named Judy Owens go to meet the chairman. Seeing that students begin to gossip around here, at that time, I recalled her magic ability called a glass body. I guess this must be another physique variant. But I don't know her reason for staying in Class A3. There must be another secret reason behind this. Talking about intelligence info collection, I turned towards Fatty, who was sitting beside me. I asked, "Lucas, do you know anything about her?" Hearing that, the Fatty shook his head in denial. I never paid attention to other classes before. But don't worry, I'll collect intel of Class A3 ASAP, Lucas Brad said, and when he said that, a surprise filled his face. A quick glint flashes in my eyes. I feel Class A3 is not that special. It must be something to do with Judy Owens. The only person who could clarify my doubts is Ms. Rivers. I'm close to her compared to my class teacher, Eric. Suddenly, I heard a coughing sound. Coughed a cough. I saw it was from a combat teacher. Mr. Freeman coughed to attract everyone's attention. Everyone stopped talking and shifted their attention towards him. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Mr. Freeman said, "I just received a message from management. The challenge duel is over. We should return to our class now." Students felt dissatisfied. They never imagined that a simple event would have such twists and turns. At this time, Frank Lambert opened his mouth to comment, "It's better to return to class than to watch the boring duels." His words were immediately supported by his friends. Already, students were dissatisfied that they were not allowed to duel. Since it's an order from the school's chairman, they have no other choice but to sit back and watch. Now that it's also changed, the students felt it was good to return to the class. The opinions of students were turned upside down. With that, the small commotion also settled down quickly. Mr. Freeman nodded and led everyone back to the class. 10 minutes later, Class A1. Everyone returned back to their seats. My mind is filled with so many thoughts. Even after coming back here, I couldn't help but think about the next headmaster. Then I dispelled these thoughts and continued to mind my own business. Mr. Eric Wallace stepped inside the class. Upon seeing the disappointment on the students' faces, he doesn't know how to comfort them. Mr. Eric also didn't expect such a move from Chairman Benjamin. Some students raised their questions about the canceled challenge duel. But Mr. Eric said, "Seriously, I'm just like you. I'm not informed about anything. It's all the chairman's doing." The students became silent after hearing his words. Then Mr. Wallace continued to conduct the lecture. Police headquarters. Clinic room. Dead. Wizard Mitchell pronounced Tyler Dixon's death. A promising level 4 power mage died unjustly due to forbidden poison. The news immediately swept away the building like a storm. A crowd quickly began to gather in front of the clinic. Mr. Mitchell placed Tyler Dixon's corpse inside an ice coffin. Most of the body parts were eroded by purple poisoning. The ice coffin will preserve his remains. After sealing the ice coffin, he let out a deep sigh. He waited for Wizard Billy to arrive. But unfortunately, he still hasn't come. The only good thing that happened recently was that the department head of Battle Hall left for his mission. Because of that, a huge burden was lifted off his shoulder. He didn't worry about the other level 5 wizards in this building, because he already had good relations with them. Seeing the gathering crowd, he told his assistants to take care of them. He was not in the mood to return to his cabin. He doesn't know what's wrong with Wizard Billy. But he had reported everything about Captain Tyler. And now he is going to give him Tyler Dixon's death report. The news is quickly covered. The ghost knows when it will leak out. Wizard Mitchell can only hope for their timely return. Bellbrook City. Alan Pitts used his extreme speed to reach his team members. After escaping from that place, he had already contacted them. 15 minutes later, at the place of aircar landing platforms, 3 people are standing together. They were seemingly waiting for someone. Soon, a silhouette appeared in front of them in the blink of an eye. Mr. Alan Pitt's sudden appearance caught them off guard. The force of his high speed quickly swept away the nearby surroundings. His expression turned ugly immediately after that. It's not wise to use magic in broad daylight. It will attract attention. Mr. Allen's eyes signaled others to follow him. They left the place and halted at some random spot. "Vice Captain, are you all right?" Jimmy Herman asked. His face shows that he is happy with his safe return. He knew the department head wouldn't disappoint them. He kept his promise by saving Alan. "Thanks to the department head, I'm fine," Alan said. Then he took a good glance at 3 of them. After knowing that they were safe and sound without injury, Alan breathed in relief. Earlier, he made a terrible miscalculation. Leon Willie's mana alone froze him on the spot. Because of him, his team members also suffered. It's good that the department head came on time. Otherwise, he couldn't imagine the result. Seeing the guilty expression on his face, Jimmy Herman looked at Lottie and Pam Levine. Sigh. After sighing, Lottie Ewing decided to change the topic. "What's happening out there?" Hearing that, Alan Pitts dispelled his thoughts. Then he replied, "The department head has taken total control of the situation. He overpowered Leon with great force. Level 5 mana pressure is something else." When he said that, a look of longing appeared in his eyes. For them, Leon Willie is a terrifying existence. But before becoming department head, Leon Willie couldn't lift a finger. He realizes that it was due to the vast difference in level 4 and level 5 limits. All 3 of them took seconds to digest the fact. Because of Leon Willie's existence itself, it's a huge pressure on them. "I hope he kills him straight away," Lottie said. Alan didn't say anything. But in his heart, he knows it's impossible. From a larger perspective, the department head might use him to find the whereabouts of the other 2 rogue wizards. Unlike 3 of them, Pam Levine didn't open her mouth. Because from the beginning, something was bugging her mind. Alan notices that something is troubling her. He asked, Pam, what's wrong? Do you have anything to ask?" Pam hesitated a little bit, then she bit her lip in helplessness. Seeing such a sudden change in her, Lottie quickly asked her, "Is there anything troubling you?" Pam Levine nodded. She raised her head to look at 3 of them. "Are you guys forgetting about one important thing? Why did we come here in the first place?" Her words struck everyone's heart. "The cure," Jimmy said. Lottie shakes her head. She knew everyone realized this at this point of time. But it's hard to accept the fact. She didn't have the courage to say it openly. Then she looked at Alan Pitts, hoping that he would put an end to this matter. Alan Pitts felt great pain in his heart. He was the one who went to investigate that hotel in Little Mint Town. If he had spent a little bit of time over there, it would have been possible for him to collect crucial information. The tragedy could have been avoided and the team would have changed the plans later. Images of Tyler Dixon's flashes before his eyes. He clenches his fists in anger and frustration. Seeing his state, the three of them were worried. Jimmy Herman quickly thought of something and said, "We should join with others at the branch office. The department head might give his next order." His words made them realize they didn't have time to talk. Alan nodded, and then the four of them decided to find an air taxi to travel in. They don't want to attract the public's attention by using their magic. 20 minutes later, the air car landed near the branch office. After paying the amount, four of them stepped outside. Soon, they found Ms. Eva and her team in the waiting area. Upon noticing their presence, Ms. Eva quickly got up from her seat. Her eyes lit up with surprise at seeing Alan Pitts. At the same time, she felt relief in her heart. When they came in front of her, Ms. Eva asked, "Is he the one?" She was not sure whether the enemy was Leon Willie or not. Lottie understands her meaning. "Yes, the same one who poisoned Captain Tyler." In response, she replied. Betty Fry, Shelley Lang, and Noel Grant. Three of them were surprised. It's still hard for them to believe that Alan and his team were able to escape from such an existence. Alan Pitts said, "It's all thanks to our department head. He arrived on time to confront Leon Willie." Class A1. After the challenge duel was over, the classes continued. Unknowingly, I have gained another enemy. Don't know why? Ever since we came from the Star Battle platform to our class, Frank Lambert has been staring at me. It must be his friends whom told him about me. These *** holes, I didn't even offend anyone. But I involuntarily attracted enmity towards myself. I already imagined what would happen next. Either Frank will confront me or he will send his lackeys to harm me. I sighed internally thinking about it. I want to keep things low-key for a while. Especially after seeing Victoria's stats. I want to practice crazy hard. That woman is something else. Despite the fact that my abilities were upgraded following talent leveling, I'm still clueless about mana control. On the other hand, Victoria can release an icy streak from her sword without even using a spell. I have seen an elemental wizard do that. But she is a swordsma wizard. If she can do that without using a spell, maybe I can control gravity power. This idea rose in my heart after seeing her battle. Even if I use gravity magic for a fraction of a second, it will be helpful for me in battles. A small smile rose on my face as I realized the future prospects. For that, I need to stop other useless activities right now. At the same time, on Frank's side, Frank Lambert looked at Vincent in disdain. He heard what happened from his friends. Though Vincent Carey didn't say any ill of him. Frank thinks Vincent is overconfident. Vincent's goal of entering the top 10 ranks is a pipe dream. In his opinion, the newcomer at least needs one whole year to raise his strength to their level. So he didn't take him seriously anymore. After taking a glance at Vincent, he continued to mind his own business. In Frank's mind, the scene of his defeat repeated continuously. There is a wide gap between Victoria and him. Even if he practices like hell in the future, he can't be sure to match the gap anytime soon. He was aware that Victoria's goal was to challenge those two people. Frank casually glanced at Brent Dale. Surprisingly, Brent Dale opened his eyes the next second to stare back at him. Seeing that, Frank gave him a nod before turtling back to his position. Fu asterisco kappa. How strong is he actually? Frank muttered to himself. Sigh, he let out a deep sigh. He, like Vincent, resolved to engage in crazy practice in the future. Alternatively, there is also a group of people who can't stay calm. In particular, Liam Baker's carefully planned event ended in failure even before it started. Frustration rose in his heart. But soon he calmed down himself. He knows that if not now, there will be another time. Vincent, his classmate, he won't run away from this place. He had plenty of time on his hands to teach him a lesson. Time went on. Soon, the classes came to an end. Everyone had expected some information from the class teacher. But like as usual, Mr. Eric was tight-lipped about it. The students exited the class in disappointment. Both of us walked out of the class at the same time. What happened back on the Star Battle platform is still puzzling everyone. It is particularly important for Class A1. Some fear that the chairman's sudden change of heart might affect them. It's also bugging my mind that one after another terrible change is happening in our school. In order to clear my doubts, I walked towards the staff's building together with Fatty Lucas. Soon, we arrived in front of her cabin. I remember the last time we came here. We discussed pressuring Chairman Benjamin. Creak, the door opens. We greeted Ms. Rivers after we walked in. I can see her face is lit up with surprise. Both of us sat in the chair before talking to her. I asked, Ms. Rivers, can you tell us what's going on with the chairman? Hearing that, a look of understanding dawned upon her. Then again, she is confused. It has nothing to do with these two kids. Both of them joined the elite class. There is nothing to worry about anymore. She replied, to be honest, I don't know. And no one knows what he is up to. After that, she added further, but I believe everything will come to light sooner rather than later. I'm sure the chairman will tell everyone after the new headmaster is appointed. I remained silent. Her answers didn't clear up any of my doubts. But there is another question in my heart. At this time, Fatty Lucas asked, Teacher, will he cut down our resources? Ms. Rivers reveals a small smile on her face. Today everyone saw the magic power display by two top-rank wizards. Elite class is the face of our entire school. So I don't think the chairman will do something stupid to cut down the resources, she said with a smile. Lucas nodded happily in response. Because he asked the same question that plagued everyone's mind in his class. Ms. Rivers then shifted her attention to Vincent. Seeing him spaced out, she asked, Oh, what are you thinking so deeply? Hearing that, I answered, I'm actually eyeing the school's scholarship competition. I fear Charmam will make some changes to that. Fatty Lucas was surprised to hear my answer. If I can win the competition, the school will sponsor me. It will cover some of my expenses. Ms. Rivers nodded in understanding. She now understood why he came here instead of going home. She hadn't really thought about it before. The scholarship competition only happens at the end of the year. There are still plenty of time left for it. She commented, Vincent, I can understand your worry. But don't you think it's very soon to talk about it? After saying that, she asked, I mean, why do you want to participate? Is it about scholarship money? She had already seen through these thoughts. The only good thing about that competition is the sponsorship money. I nodded in response. There is nothing hidden about it. Lucas Brad commented, Brother, if you are in need of something, you can ask me directly. I raised my eyebrows upon hearing that. I wonder what the fatty will think if I tell him he just food sponsored me. Dispelling my thoughts, I replied to her, Ms. Rivers, who doesn't want free money? She chuckled and said, I believe in 1 year, you will gain some strength. Why don't you join some adventurer guild to earn money? I twitched. It's already something I'm planning to do in a few weeks. But I can't reveal my current strength to her. I sighed. My time was literally wasted here. I'll think about it, Ms. Rivers, I said. Then we talked about a few other things before exiting the building. We parted ways after stepping out of the school. 15 minutes later, I reached home. Creak, the door opens. After waking up, I found my parents and brother conversing with each other. I nodded at them before walking upstairs to my room. Then I spent a few more minutes getting freshened up. I wore a 3/4 and a t-shirt before walking downstairs to join the others. Seeing everyone watching the news, I sat beside Brian to watch. My dad and mom asked about my magic practice. I told them it was going well before turning my attention back to the news. My pupils constricts because the reporters are broadcasting images of police headquarters. Captain Tyler Dixon died. My expression changed drastically after reading the headlines. Shock, disbelief. I felt a myriad of emotions within seconds. I noticed the crowd gathered at police headquarters. The reporters were pushed by the guards. They are only allowing officials to enter the building. My mind went blank for a moment. Suddenly, I noticed familiar silhouettes at the entrance. Alan Pitts, Lottie Ewing, Jimmy Herman, and Pam Levine. 4 of them are surrounded by officials and other important people. My time was spent on retrieving super relics. So I almost forgot about the police headquarters. Thanks to their poison bottle, which helped me in killing Jake House. I recall Captain Tyler's condition being much worse 2 days ago. Mr. Lawrence told me some of them went on a mission. I thought they would find the cure somehow. But it looks like they failed. Poor guy. I feel sorry for him. Suddenly, I recall something. A cold shiver went down my spine. Some time ago, Poison Dagger ordered their wizard to assassinate me. I thought everything would be fine once he got cured. Now that he died, I wonder what will happen in the future. I hope a Poison Dagger won't target me anymore. Various thoughts run in my mind. I felt myself involved in bigger trouble unknowingly. Do these guys even know I got fired from the job? Images of Mr. Lawrence flashes before my eyes. Fortunately, I have his contact. I'll talk to him later. Brian noticed Vincent's expression. Seeing Vincent's troubling expression, he raised his eyebrows in confusion. He asked, Vincent, what happened? Nothing, I replied before walking back to my room. My mood was worsened by the news. I decided to meditate first to calm my heart. I sat cross-legged and focused on mental method. I gradually began to notice mana in my surroundings. The gray-colored energies entered my body and accumulated in the mana core region after being circulated. 2 hours later. After finishing my practice, I opened my eyes. System, status panel, I set to system in mind. Ding. The host's command is recognized. Ding. Level up system. Status panel. Host's name, Vincent Carey. Magic power, gravity. Mage level 1 limiter. 1.5 years remain to level up. Mental method, gravity arc, running. Grade, earth. Running mode, automatic. Rate of absorption, 80%. Gravity core status, 1%, progressing. 5.5%/month. Core formless. Mana power, 350. Mana capacity, 700. Talent, top bottom, upgradable. Color pale orange. Strength, 30. Speed, 31. Stamina, 33. Vitality, 75. Intelligence, 27. Soul power, 25. Constitution, 26. Mental power, 29. Spells, 3. 1. Gravity field, 2. Gravity push, 3. Gravity pull. Slots filled, 3. After 2 hours of practice, my mana power improved by 50. I only filled half of my mana reserve. I need 14 hours more to totally fill my reserve. It's no longer possible to go on. My thoughts are preoccupied with prior events. I rose up and called Lawrence. The police headquarters is currently in disarray. I'm not sure if he's busy or not. When I answered the phone, I heard a mournful voice on the other end. I expected you to come here, Lawrence remarked. I can tell he's exhausted by the tone of his voice. I responded, I just finished watching the news, Mr. Lawrence. What exactly occurred? I believed he could be saved. For a brief period, there was silence. I discovered that things were not as simple as they appeared. I then heard his voice again a few seconds later. To cut a long tale short, we were unable to find an antidote for Captain Tyler. Wizard Mitchell had done everything he could to buy Captain Tyler more time, but his body deteriorated so terribly that he died in the end, Lawrence explained. His response did not surprise me, because I had previously foreseen this. In my heart, a question regarding the poison dagger arose. What about the poison dagger? I inquired. Lawrence was surprised when he heard this question. For a brief period, there was silence. Because some information is protected. As a result, he is not permitted to speak. Lawrence responded, you are no longer a member of our force. So you don't have to be concerned about it. When I heard that, my brow wrinkled. But I can't make him to talk about it. We then talked about a few more things before hanging up. My eyes have a faint sparkle. His statements gave me some hope that the assassination would not take place. I should be extra cautious now that I've opted to be low-key. What I urgently require is money. It appears that I will need to obtain a hunting license by this weekend. Then I resumed my activity after clearing my mind. Benjamin's house? Study room. Chairman Benjamin directed his assistant to rapidly gather information about other students after learning about a unique magic user in his school. He was aware that all of the information was saved in the database. His assistant simply has to screen students like Judy Owens. He sat on a chair, calmly musing, and fell into thought. A sparkle shoots through his eyes as he recalls the Star Battle platform duel. Several calculations run through his mind. Obviously, he will not touch the resources of the elite class, because doing so will indirectly harm the school's interests. Several minutes later, his assistant entered the room, holding a file. Chairman Benjamin took the file from his hands. In his heart, a spark of interest arose. He can't recall the last time he was interested in wizard students. He will not consider other classes if it's before. Everything has changed now. As time passes, his eyes examine the details of wizard students. Another strange talent attracted his attention, a mist with no attribute. His eyes light up with excitement. Illusions are commonly associated with mist magic. In most circumstances, this skill is useful for concealing runic pentagrams from others. Wizards who are competent in runes prefer it. The miasmic toxic mists, on the other hand, are nature's best creation. It's a strange and lethal mix of poison and mist magic. The mists that do not contain poison are completely safe. Another unique magic with middle-grade talent, Chairman mumbled. However, he is unable to recall the existence of attribute-less mental methods for mists. Most of the mental tactics he recalls being related to illusions and poisons. Glass body and attribute-less mists. He pushed the thoughts away and resumed reading the information. After 15 minutes, Chairman Benjamin discovered 10 wizard students with strange magical abilities, including one with a glass body and the attribute less mists. His assistant remained in front of him the entire time, making no move. He raised his head to peer into his assistant's eyes after getting some clarity. Take this name list and transmit it to school administration, Chairman Benjamin instructed. The file is taken off the desk by the assistant. Chairman Benjamin went on to say, I tell the administration to form a new special class with these 10 students. In his heart, the assistant was astonished. He now understood why his boss had acted strangely at school. Before leaving the room, the assistant nodded. Benjamin mumbled as he saw his disappearing back. The first plan is going well. I'll have to think about the second one now. As he recalls the prior episode, a little gleam appears in his eyes. Collins, the former headmaster, had been fired. Chairman Benjamin had no regrets about his decision. But there is one aspect of the former headmaster that he admires. Collins had never bothered him about the school issue. Chairman Benjamin had an easy life as a result of him. He now aims to appoint someone with the same trait. A true workaholic. Also, Mr. Benjamin does not want the future headmaster to repeat similar blunder. He then turned on the project disc on his desk. In front of him, a holographic screen appears. Seeing this, he began immediately accessing candidate files. Many are unaware that he has set a deadline for accepting applications. Surprisingly, several wizards with strong teaching credentials applied for this position. With over 500 prospects, he will need some time to sift through them all. His assistant conducted a mass screening of 500 candidates. The figures did not surprise Chairman Benjamin, because he mentioned that level 3 wizards can apply. Aside from that, he had established tight recruitment standards. If wizard students had known this in school, their jaws would have dropped in surprise. His gaze was fixed on the projection screen. He began to assess their level, magic, talent, experience, and, most importantly, background. The previous headmaster was a nobody. That is why he was unable to retaliate when he was sacked from his position. Several calculations occurred to him. He gave orders to form a specific class, thus the school is nothing like it was previously. Aside from finding suitable headmasters, he must also find teachers for special class. As time passes, Chairman Benjamin is still shortlisting candidates. Suddenly, a certain candidate's magical ability drew his attention. For a brief period, his entire being became frozen. Because this magical ability is rare, it can be found only among the many powerhouses. Even if it appears among the public, these forces will swiftly enlist them. He glanced at the magical ability in disbelief once more. Knowing that it's true and that someone with such rare magical abilities applied for this position, Chairman Benjamin's expression became more constricted. He took another look at the candidate information. Name, Chester Nixon. Level 3 limit. Magic, inspect. Talent, yellow top. Experience, previously worked as a research assistant at the Lenin Herbal Institute. Had 20 years of herbal research experience. For a brief while, Chairman Benjamin is at a loss for words. But after seeing the talent, he exhaled a sigh of relief. Previously, he was astounded by the talent, but now he understands it. Unfortunately, such a wizard was limited by a lack of talent. He sighed deeply. Chairman Benjamin understands the candidate's circumstance. If Chester Nixon cannot make another breakthrough, he will die when his lifespan expires. It's already a miracle that he's at level 3 with yellow talent. His eyes have a tiny shine to them. Chairman Benjamin understood the candidate's magic enabled him to reach the level 3 limit. He could see the candidate's future if he had awoken above high talent. He then cleared his mind and proceeded to truly contemplate his appointment. Because of his level, this individual would not shine in other organizations. But in this case, the candidate has a lot of options. His eyes light up with anticipation as he considers special class. Chester Nixon's magical ability also allows him to guide specific classes. When it comes to work, he believes the applicant is a better workaholic than the previous headmaster. Police headquarters. Alan Pitts, Lottie Ewing, Pam Levine, and Jimmy Herman took a break from speaking with their superiors and other important people. They are actually staying out in Tyler Dixon's cabin to avoid people. Otherwise, they would be overrun by a swarm of officials. 4 of them were experiencing a wide range of emotions. In the past few days, there have been numerous changes. Their department head had apprehended the criminal and placed him in an undisclosed prison cell. They exacted their vengeance but were unable to save their captain. Alan Pitts felt a flutter in his chest. He has no idea how to respond to their current situation. His face grew emotionless and his eyes shone with icy light. Not only him, but the other three were also coping with the grief. No one was in the mood to converse. Pam, the sensitive one, has been crying since they returned from Bellbrook City. She wouldn't have been able to stand in front of so many people if it hadn't been for Lottie's support. Unlike Pam, Lottie deals with her loss in her own way. Lottie was skeptical of the existence of a cure from the start. She was doubtful of the information. Only their department head is capable of telling the truth. As a result, Lottie anticipated their captain's demise. She absorbs the information easily now that it has occurred. Jimmy Herman used to be composed and serene. Although for the time being he is composed, his heart is not at ease. They attempted to locate a cure in the lion's lair, but they were unsuccessful. He has no idea how to express his feelings. He felt as if something had been taken away from him, leaving him with an empty feeling in his heart. 4 of them are dealing with grief. They no longer use the word a cure. The word began with hope and finished with dread. Creak! The door opens when 4 of them are sitting in the chair. Wizard Mitchell entered to see them. When they saw him, 4 of them stood up from their seats. For a brief while, the environment was deafeningly quiet. Their silence alone expressed a wide range of feelings to him. Wizard Mitchell sighed quietly to himself. It's not only that they're helpless. He couldn't accept his inability to save Captain Tyler as a healing wizard. It is the job of healers to dismantle the ways that prevent patients from recovering. He knew he could have saved him on the first day of treatment if it hadn't been for the forbidden poison. But nothing can be done now. It's just life. In their predicament, not only was the cure out of reach, but so was time. Dispelling his thoughts, he looked them in the eyes and said, "It's time." Alan is still cool under pressure, despite his mixed emotions. He took a step forward and said, "Thank you for informing us, Department Head. We'll be there right away." Before leaving the room, Wizard Mitchell nodded. When Alan noticed his disappearance, he turned to his team members and stated, "Let's go." The preparations for their captain's burial is going on. Suddenly, there is a new development. Because he perished as a result of a forbidden poison, many of the higher-ranking officials recommended burning the body. Because it is widely known that dark wizards use wizard corpses to do experiments. As a result, most wizards do not want this to happen. However, the motive is different in this case. No one wants to open the door to such a possibility. So everyone wants to see Captain Tyler's body burned to ashes as soon as possible. Alan Pitts gnashed his teeth in rage upon hearing such a talk. Even if they were telling the truth, why can't they talk quietly? Many of them behaved shamelessly. They were unconcerned about the scenario. A hint of sadness can be seen from Alan's cold eyes. Captain Tyler's corpse would be burned to ashes at this point, he understood. They'll do it right here at the police station. Alan raged in his heart at these SCU asterisk bags. It's no surprise that wizards came here in large numbers. It's not about expressing sympathy. They came here to keep people from getting in their way. They want to get rid of the body as quickly as possible. After knowing what was going on around him, Alan Pitt's face became increasingly frosty. Click! Suddenly, he feels the chains being released. Alan's eyes spark with a cold glint as he senses his limit loosening. It will only be a matter of time before he reaches level 4. Alan made a clear decision in his heart. He made the choice to leave this work. He will not return until he has reached level 4. At this point, his previous helplessness felt completely washed away. As a result, his entire demeanor became that of a newborn. Jimmy Herman, standing beside him, wrinkled his brows in perplexity. Despite the fact that he did not cast any spells, his nose is passively taking up signals. He was able to detect Alan's changes because he was standing next to him. The mana accumulating around Alan has become much more concentrated. The scene is imperceptible to the human sight, but Jimmy Herman confirms it with his senses. Despite the fact that it is not similar to a regular level 4 wizard. However, it is higher than the level 3 level. When Jimmy considered level 4, he felt as if lightning had struck his entire being. His dull eyes have a sparkling shine to them. Given the circumstances, he chose to remain silent. Finally, after considerable wrangling among the officials, everyone arrives at the same decision. It was agreed to burn the corpse for safety reasons. Alan informed his team members after confirming the news. He doesn't want Pam and Lottie to stay right now. Pam's mental health is deteriorating, according to him. Only Lottie can assist her right now. He also told Jimmy to accompany them. They returned to Captain Tyler's cabin after learning. At the same time, the officials then took action. Alan predicted where they would complete the task. A large number of convicts are imprisoned in an underground basement. As a result, they knew where to dispose of the bodies of deceased prisoners. In the meantime, Pain Wizard Eva is making her way to their department head's cabin. When it comes to the team, after collecting the rewards, they split up. Since they returned, her mind has been concerned with one thing, which is where rogue wizard Leon Willie is right now. That person was the source of everyone's pain. The cure is the reason she has been thinking about him. She wants to know if their superiors have confirmed the existence of a cure or not. She just knew that Wizard Billy had imprisoned that individual in his new jail, which is heavily reinforced. Even a level 5 wizard cannot break through the wall. Level 5 wizards are taking turns guarding that one prison cell, especially after locking him up. Daleberg, the chief of their battle hall department, informed her of this. She sighed, recalling Captain Tyler. She is unsure about the treatment, but she is relieved that they have finally apprehended the rogue wizard. Without Captain Tyler's death, the news would have startled many people. However, higher-ups opted to conceal the information. They don't want anyone to find out. Her eyes widened as she noticed the poison dagger had 2 additional members. She arrived in front of the battle hall department head's cabin while considering. The door creaks open. She noticed the department head sitting cross-legged in a meditative position. She didn't want to bother him, so she strolled gently to a nearby chair to sit. Time passes, and 10 minutes later, after finishing the practice, Daleberg opened his eyes. He stood up and walked back to his seat when he saw Eva. When she entered the cabin, he became aware of her presence. "So, what's going on out there?" Dale asked her a question. Miss Eva was aware that he was discussing the decisions of those officials. "They chose to burn his corpse," she replied. He didn't respond when he heard that. "How does your pain magic operate against level 4 wizards?" he inquired. Miss Eva's face changed dramatically. Leon Willie is the only level 4 wizard she can think of right now. The department head isn't required to break the suspense, because she already knew the answer. "If it's an ordinary level 4 wizard, my spell would be successful," she thoughtfully said after acquiring some insight. Wizard Dale took a breather. Not only did he agree, but another department head in this building agreed to allow her to question Leon Willie. Because everyone knows that Leon Willie's body deteriorated as a result of the forbidden experiment, Eva may be able to effectively utilize her magic against him. "I suppose you guessed well about the level 4 wizard," he replied. Eva responded with a Leon Willie. Wizard Dale answered with a nod. "Yes, it is he." His frail condition had already deteriorated following the previous fight. Miss Eva's eyes flashed brightly. Wizard Billy told her that he had utterly crushed Leon Willie in the battle. If Leon Willie's injury is severe, she has a chance of increasing the pain. Chairman Benjamin made the decision to name Chester Nixon as the next headmaster. But first, he intends to meet him in person. He discussed the decision with his assistant. In a few days, his assistant will set up the meeting. He was relieved that his 2 difficulties had been resolved. Days passed. Vincent Carey spends the majority of his time practicing gravity mental methods. Before stepping out into the wilderness, he intends to raise his mana power as much as possible. Some of his classmates want to test his strength. However, they can only put it to the test in combat class. So everyone is looking forward to the Monday following the weekend. They can only wait patiently because there is no combat class in between. Liam and his friends were observing Vincent's activities in silence, but none of them took any action against Vincent. While Liam waits for the next good opportunity, his buddies have no choice but to listen to him. Alternatively, Tyler Dixon's body was taken care of by officers at police headquarters. The ashes were also sealed and preserved. Alan Pitts did not fight back after witnessing all of this. He had already decided to resign from his position. Everything was peaceful at police headquarters as the day progressed. There were no longer any reporters. Everyone went back to their usual routine. Alan Pitts was finally able to meet with Billy, the department head. After discussing his intentions to leave the force, the wizard Billy did not stop him and accepted his resignation letter. Jimmy, Lottie, and Pam are taken aback by their vice captain's abrupt resignation. Alan Pitts did not conceal anything. He promised to return once he had made a breakthrough. Alan Pitts' efforts, whether deliberately or unknowingly, revived fighting spirits in their hearts. 3 of them, like Alan, decided to enhance their strength. Unlike Alan, they must perform their duties here. Because Alan has resigned, the selection of a new captain and vice captain will take some time. Until then, the trio will have plenty of time to train. During this time, Miss Eva from the Battle Hall Department agreed to question Leon Willie. However, the interrogation cannot take place straight away. The rogue's identity is kept private. As a result, a questioning in front of at least 2 department heads was decided upon. That means there will be 2 level 5 wizards present on the day of interrogation. It will take them a few days to finalize the timetable for the interrogation day. Weekend. The city of Venon. I walked to the nearby restaurant for breakfast after exiting the air car. I watched local shops, streets, and passers-by while strolling. Most significantly, they are adventurers. This quaint city reminds me of my last visit here. That day, it took a lot of effort, calculation, and acting to get rid of that jerk, Jake House. My stomach suddenly began to rumble. After hearing the sound, I hastened my speed. Before leaving the house, I lied to my parents once again about my visit. I informed them that I was heading to a friend's place. I would have eaten breakfast at home otherwise. It will take some time to register before heading out into the wilderness. As a result, I don't want to squander time at home. Then I arrived at the modest restaurant. I went inside and got a plain steak to eat. This food was plenty to sustain me in the wilderness, as I was only going to stroll around the periphery. I left the restaurant a few minutes later. The Adventurers Union is my next stop. The Adventurer Union is the umbrella body for various guilds. However, the Adventurers Union in this city is a small branch. According to the press and other sources, adventurers' unions exist in numerous nations. It is linked together like a spider web. It's not like other organizations. They can compete with the food industry in terms of wealth. They can compete with other wizard groups and families when it comes to wizard powerhouses. Unlike other organizations' recruitment policies, anyone can join an adventurer union and become a hunter. However, if you want to be a core member of an organization, you can only advance through the ranks by merit. Some people stay just to make money, while others with exceptional talent have joined the organization's core. Several ideas spring to mind. The Adventurer Union, however, cannot compete with the other organizations in wizardry knowledge. Each group has its own set of spells and mental methods. Most of them had been handed down by families for generations, and some were maintained as inheritances. So, if one wishes to follow in the footsteps of a wizard, they must first find a good and proper organization. My eyes have a faint sparkle. I chose Yellow River Academy primarily for their gravity mental method and spells. So, while I dislike the Adventurer Union, that doesn't rule out the possibility of establishing a party or joining a guild. When I reach level 2, I will think about it. Then I went towards the Adventurers Union, which is a short walk from here. I soon found myself in front of a massive towering tower. As I gaze at the apex of the tower penetrating high above the clouds, a strange glitter flashes in my eyes. The tower appears grand compared to photographs and videos floating around online, I muttered. Then I noticed the tower's sign, which said the Adventurer Union in Gothic style. I then proceeded to the registration desk. I stumbled across a gorgeous dolled-up figure at the main office. "Do you require anything?" she inquired. "I'm here to get a hunting license," I explained. The lady nodded and took me to the registration area, where another woman was seated behind her desk. She walked away after introducing me. Before beginning the registration process, the woman at the counter looked at me. For registration, I used my school ID. She didn't raise an eyebrow. I'm guessing that school students come here rather often. My school even conducts a monster hunt here. Would you like to be ranked? After I registered my name, the woman behind the counter asked. Several ideas spring to mind. I was aware that there were badges representing qualified hunters. However, it is only useful to people who join adventurer guilds. I had no intention of doing so. As a result, I just said, no. The woman stopped asking inquiries. She handed me a new silver-colored identification card, and I immediately recognized it as a hunter's license. Then she handed me the login information for their union's website. I can reach their website using my communication watch. According to news and articles, their union website sells a variety of goods ranging from herbs and potions to artifacts and even spells. I didn't know whether that was real or not at the moment. But I'll check after I finish my trip. When she noticed me staring, she inquired, "Is there anything you need?" When I heard that, I pulled back my thoughts and responded, "I need a map to go out." The woman stared at me with a puzzled expression. I realized she had misunderstood me. "I'm just going to spend time exploring the area close to our city wall," I said. The woman only stopped staring at me when she heard my words. She handed me the wilderness map for free because I'm a beginner hunter. I exited the facility after storing the map in my storage bracelet. The procedure went more easily than expected. They didn't even conduct a proper background check. Perhaps they were aware of my school. As a result, they ignored it. If an unknown person came here to register, a separate procedure may be followed. The air taxi landed a few minutes later on a nearby platform in front of the massive city wall. Many air taxis were dropping and picking up passengers. I observed this area of the city is more crowded than others. I walked towards the gate after stepping out of the air taxi. For verification, I decided to utilize my school ID. The hunter's license will be used to sell my loot. In my mind, I had a smart plan. I soon found myself in front of the gate. My school ID was scanned by the city guard. They let me go after they saw there was no problem. Some people look at me with astonishment because I'm going out alone and not with a group. Their stares are filled with disgust and disdain, but no malice or hatred. I didn't say anything in response. Because for other people, making money by hunting monsters is their entire career. Because their abilities were limited, they abandoned the road of wizardry. They are pleased with their limited strength as wizards, despite the fact that they cannot advance. Because their lives are far superior to those of ordinary humans. As a result, I ignored their advice. After walking outside, I saw a vast landscape spread out before me. In full daylight, I can get a good look at my surroundings. As I gazed out into the forest, my eyes glowed with enthusiasm. It's a good place to put my newfound strength to the test. Then, without further thought, I wandered towards the wilderness. I checked the wilderness map 20 minutes later to figure out where I was. After looking at it, I determined that I'm around the center of the outer area. This region is mostly deserted. Aside from the lovely green foliage, no monsters can be discovered. I realized this as a result of the excessive killing throughout the years. The amount of creatures prowling the surrounding area has been dramatically reduced. The remaining monsters withdrew further into the depths. I remembered my previous visit here. I was in a similar scenario at the time. But I didn't give it much thought because I was focused on Jake. Now that I have the opportunity, I must plan properly. If I can't find a single monster in this area, I'll have to venture deeper. I let out a deep sigh. It's possible that the situation will force me into the inner city. TGP. I was considering my choices when I heard footsteps in the distance. I became vigilant. I took close note of my surroundings. There is a larger chance of encountering humans here than of encountering a monster. I continued to hear faint footsteps as time passed. To avoid being alerted by whatever it is, I didn't make any hasty moves. I want to make certain that there is no adventurers' party in the area. 5 minutes later, I discovered the source of the sound was something else. Then I rapidly wandered over to where I heard that sound. As I got closer to the location, my eyes were drawn to a strange scene. There is closely packed vegetation in front of me. A set of ears protrude above the bushes among the foliage. System, probe the monster in front of me, I said. Ding. The host's voice is recognized. Ding. The command is being executed. %. Status panel. Name, brown rabbit. Level, half order. Strength, 8. Vitality, 7. Speed, 12. Stamina, 9. Skill, hopping. A faint smile appeared on my lips as I saw the status panel in front of me. Without further ado, I acted quickly. Gravity field. An invisible gravitational field burst around me as I swiftly cast the magic. Due to gravitational force, a tremendous pressure formed within the field. It immediately shattered whatever was in my field into shreds. PFFF. The half-step rabbit has been totally turned into flesh paste inside my field. When I realized this, I instantly dispelled the spell and proceeded to the corpse. Where can I find it? I sighed. The school's lectures and movies taught me about wilderness monsters. As far as I know, monsters could be differentiated like wizards. In our wizard system, we normally rank a mage's power from level 1 to level 10. The monsters are classified from 1st to 10th order. The 1st order monster is as powerful as a level 1 wizard. Similarly, the strength of the 10th order monster is equivalent to that of a level 10 wizard. I suddenly remembered something. The wilderness studies teacher in my school mentioned monsters in our city. He claimed there was no powerful monster in our city at the time. What exactly does he mean? I said. I'm sure a powerful monster in his eyes had to be a monster of the 4th order or above. If there were a presence of 5th order monsters in the city, the police wizards would not remain silent. They would have deployed their department heads immediately to eradicate such a threat. In my eyes, a glint flashes. The most powerful monster in this wilderness, in my opinion, is a 4th order monster. The 4th order monster in this area acts as an overlord to the 3rd order monsters. The Adventurers Union must have strategies for this. They can only earn money if this wilderness contains a particular quantity of monsters. These are simply my assumptions. Who knows, maybe there's a variable. After I go home, I'll need to brush up on my wilderness knowledge. Then I stared at the dead body. In the monster's brain section, there is something called a crystal gem. Inside the rabbit brain, I discovered a red-colored peanut-sized gem. I examined the gem carefully after taking it out. It is the rabbit monster's source of power. According to the data on the status panel, this peanut-sized gem of the monster has half the strength of the level 1 limit. The monster must have recently attained half-order power because the stats are so low. According to what I've heard, the crystal gem will grow in size as the monster progresses through the levels. Then I put the stone inside my storage bracelet. I'm sure just this crystal gem brought me a lot of money. The gem is mostly used as an ingredient in potions. As a result, there are always buyers for these monster gems. After inspecting the corpse, I sighed. I should be more cautious with my magic in the future. Aside from crystal gems, every restaurant craves rabbit meat. Manna steaks made from rabbits have a delicate flavor that everyone enjoys. Fatty used to eat a lot of steaks like this. I'm curious how he'd react if I told him I turned his favorite dish into paste. Dispelling the ideas, I am determined to take care not to hurt the monster's body in the future. I then wandered towards the woods in search of my next target. A few minutes later, 3 people appeared in front of the rabbit carcass. The group exchanged glances as they assessed the monster's condition. The group's leader is the person in the middle. He examined the pasted meat with interest. What exactly is this magic? One of the members questioned. This pasted meat can't be sold, observed another warrior standing near the leader enviously. What a waste of resources, he complained. The leader remained silent. He knelt down to examine the magic. They can guess the wizard possesses fire-type magic power if there is a source of heat. However, the person looking at the site has a complicated gaze because he finds no common elemental traces from it. Suddenly, he notices that the surroundings have changed. The devastation occurred in a circular pattern. As a result, it is not the typical single type of spell. His attention was then directed to the pasted meat and adjoining crushed foliage. As an experienced adventurer, he noticed that there was a lot of damage done within the circular area. Is it related to wind element magic? He grumbled to himself. The veteran adventurer couldn't think of anything except the wind element. There is no indication of fire, water, earth, or metal magic. Only wind magic, he believes, is difficult to trace. He then rose up from the ground, dismissing the ideas. He shared his thoughts with his teammates. Following that, 3 of them went hunting in another direction. The veteran adventurer didn't want to offend the wizard with a unique wind spell. Their mistake saved Vincent's time. In the blink of an eye, time passes. Noon. Phew. As I perched on the tree branch, I exhaled a sigh of relief. I didn't come across any other monsters in this area after I finished hunting the rabbit monster. It's quite aggravating. It comes as no surprise that the adventurers spend the entire day and night hunting their prey. Then I take the wilderness map from my storage bracelet to view it. It's been several hours since I entered the wilderness. It's time to figure out where I am right now. I calculated my distance from the communication watch. Then I utilized the map to estimate my current location. I soon discovered I was in the midst of the outside region. If I keep walking like this, I'll shortly reach the border of the outer area. My instincts tell me to venture towards the inner area. Finding that half-order rabbit monster is purely coincidental. It is unlikely to occur frequently. Then I leaped from the tree branch to land on the ground. I walked deeper into the area without further ado. Aside from monsters, I didn't come across any other adventurers. Which leads me to believe that, aside from me, others proceeded to the inner area. It seems only a matter of time before I run into some monsters. I arrived at the edge of the outer area an hour later. I didn't rush inside the inner area after arriving at the location. I'm curious to see whether there are any monsters lurking around here. So far, I've realized that my survival skills are poor. Having only theoretical knowledge will not help me find the monsters. I'll need to learn the necessary skills. I sighed, but it didn't bother me too much. It's only been a month since I acquired my magical ability, so I have lots of time to practice survival skills. I then began to look into the surroundings while disguising my presence. Maple City, Redwater Province. A middle-aged man exited a 10-story glass building. The massive structure was designed in such a way that natural sunlight could penetrate. This magnificent glass structure is part of the Lenin Herbal Institute. Chester Nixon is a middle-aged man. He exited the premises with tired shoulders after completing the formalities of his resignation. He has dedicated his life to herbal research studies for over 20 years. His peers were already well beyond him in terms of wizard level, wealth, and anything else you could think of. The Lenin Institute is now looking for new blood. They don't want old foxes like him to stick around. Chester Nixon long since accepted his fate as a yellow-grade talent. Chester Nixon's age is 42. He has dark hair and dark eyes. He stands 5 feet tall and has fair skin. He hopped into the air car and drove back to his house after exiting the premises. He must travel 2 miles to get home. Soon after passing through several streets, shops, and farm fields, Chester Nixon got home 40 minutes later. He gently lands the air car in front of the parking garage. He entered the house after stepping out. His residence is a medium-sized villa. He had done one nice thing by purchasing this villa. He had led a frugal life. So, when it comes to money, he would not spend it until absolutely required. He purchased this villa because he desired this level of privacy. The tranquil atmosphere distracts him from the frantic work schedule of the Lenin Institute. He felt a big weight lifted off his shoulder now that he was free. At the same time, he knows that he cannot compete with his level 4 wizard counterparts. But he is still a wizard and his existence is far superior to that of ordinary humans. Because of his level 3 limit, Chester Nixon has a long lifespan. He is not going to die anytime soon. That is why he chose to pursue a new career where his effort is valued. After that, he had a long bath before changing back into his comfortable clothing. He instantly remembered the jobs he had lately applied for. He wonders if any of them have responded. He went to his study. He sat in the seat and opened the projector disc to turn it on. A blue holographic screen appears in front of him when he activates it. When Chester Nixon notices this, he begins to connect to the server. He had mailed his resume to a number of companies, so he has a slim chance of receiving a response from at least one organization. The very first thing he did was check his email. He found multiple responses after logging in. When he notices this, he begins to check them one by one. He sighed when he realized the majority of them were rejections. He had placed a lot of faith in himself. He was rejected because he was either overqualified or his age was inappropriate for the job. He read the rejection emails and felt no guilt, because the companies he had applied for were quite large. If he lowers his goals, he may be able to find work in other small and medium-sized businesses. He considered shutting off the projection disc after clearing his mind. But then a new email arrived in his inbox. As he gazed at the green lettering, his eyes widened with amazement. He opened the message and began reading it right away. A little smile came on his face a few seconds later. He whispered to himself, "A little Stargate High School." Right after he took the decision to resign, he had applied for some random jobs on the spur of the moment. He only afterwards cleared his head and began applying to those large corporations. He's not sure whether to laugh or cry right now. None of the major corporations had accepted his application. However, he has recently obtained an acceptance letter from this wizard school. For a little moment, the mood within the room calms down. He believed his previous assumption was right. He should not have targeted those huge companies. Some huge companies have ties to wizard organizations. As a result, they will think twice before hiring a level 3 wizard for a higher position. He was lost in thought. Despite receiving a job acceptance letter, he wishes to pursue other opportunities. After receiving various options, he will determine which one to choose. He turned off the projection desk after acquiring some insight. His glum attitude had been lifted by the single acceptance letter. He is now extremely pleased with himself. Alternatively, the administrative department returned the information to Assistant Nick after sending mail to Chester Nixon. As per Chairman Benjamin's request, Nick wants to set up a meeting between them as soon as possible. However, this will only occur if the other side is prepared for the job. Simply submitting an application does not guarantee success. Nick understands how this works. Others may be looking for alternatives. The other party will stay undecided unless the chairman offers better compensation or something else. Nick's mind is racing with ideas. He made the decision to tell Chairman Benjamin of the new developments. It is up to the chairman to decide what to do next. In the blink of an eye, time passes. Evening, Chairman Benjamin raised his head and stared Nick in the eyes. "Are you suggesting that we pay him more?" he inquired. His assistant just provided him with the information about Chester Nixon a few minutes ago. He'd already decided to select Chester Nixon as the future headmaster. These are only his thoughts. But he has no idea what Chester Nixon's plans are. Assistant Nick quickly responded, "We need to act quickly, boss. There is a chance that he will receive job offers from others." When it came to major problems, Assistant Nick knew his boss would always want to hear his thoughts. Right now, he wants to make this happen. If Chester Nixon accepts the position, he will be given judge credit. When Chairman Benjamin heard that, an understanding hit him. He almost missed the most vital point. He accepted Chester Nixon's job application without looking at others. However, the same cannot be stated for the other parties. A glint flashes across his eyes. Chairman Benjamin has already decided against considering additional applicants. He must act swiftly, as urged by his assistant. He worked as a researcher. We don't know what he wants from the teaching profession, Chairman Benjamin said. He felt it was better to ask him. Then he went on to say, Nick, you can approach him on my behalf. See what he's after? Then we can make a decision later. In response, Nick nodded his head. They then talked about a few more things before Nick exited the room. Nick drove his air car towards home after leaving the chairman's house. Nick arrived at his residence 1 hour later. He took the lift to his room after parking his air car on the ground. He was freshened up a few minutes later. Recalling Chairman Benjamin's order rather than calling, Nick chose to send a text message first. He has no idea if Chester Nixon is available. So Nick decided to avoid being impolite by making an abrupt phone call. At the same moment, Chester Nixon, who was sleeping in his medium-sized villa, was awakened by the message. Who is he? While gazing at the text message on his communication watch, he murmured to himself. He then began reading the message. His eyes widened with amazement once more. What's up with this wizard school? He reflected to himself. He had not expected them to contact him so quickly. For a brief period, Chester Nixon is at a loss for words. He considered taking his time to see whether he would receive any more acceptance letters from other companies. However, based on the text message, he believes that the bigwigs behind this small school want to hear his response immediately away. In reluctance, he wrinkled his brows. After a brief moment of thought, he decides to make a call. When the call is accepted, hello, this is Chester speaking, how may I help you? He stated. Nick, on the other hand, was completely taken aback. He didn't expect Mr. Chester Nixon to respond so quickly. Then Nick starts talking. He explained that Little Stargate High School was in desperate need of a suitable applicant for the role of headmaster. Nick also informed him of the chairman's desire to increase his remuneration. Chester Nixon was patiently listening at the same time. The conversation has shown him that the Little Wizard School is really serious about recruiting him. Chester Nixon then told Nick to give him some time. He had already decided to wait for the status of other applications. So it will only be a matter of days until he finds out the result. Nick, on the other hand, did not make things difficult. He was pleased that Chester Nixon is taking their job offer into consideration. In the blink of an eye, time passes. I investigated my surroundings for more than an hour. Except for the brisk wind and dreadful silence of the wilderness. So far, I haven't come across any adventurer parties or monsters. Several ideas spring to mind. It is dangerous to enter into a wilderness location without the necessary team. Only an adventurer team can deal with monsters of the second or third order. In the intersection, there is a slim chance of encountering a third-order monster. It would be disastrous for me if I came across such a monster. The stats of such monsters are comparable to those of level 3 wizards. Before I enter, I need to plan properly. When I was debating whether or not to enter the inner region, I heard the faint voice of a person. I quickly turned and went looking for a spot to hide. I began to hear numerous voices as time passed. Adventurer party, I whispered to myself. I noticed a strange glint in my eyes as I realized this might be a new squad. The adventurers who have entered the wilderness along with me must have gone to the inner area several hours ago. I took cover behind a tree. And my location is quite opposite to them. Even if there is a sensory wizard, he won't be able to detect my presence. Images of Jimmy Herman sprang before my eyes when I thought about sensory-type wizards. In this wilderness, having a sensory-type wizard on your side is invaluable. You can proceed without hesitation. After that, I waited for the new adventuring party to draw close to the edge. I want to see what exactly is the new team up to. The sounds of footsteps gradually become louder. I eventually noticed them as they approach the last edge of the outside area. This adventurer group consists of 2 men and 3 women. After looking at them, I felt it necessary to explore their details. But my instincts tell me that's not a good idea. I've always had a strong faith in my instincts. I shouldn't make any hasty decisions without knowing about their magical abilities. So I relaxed my heart and tuned up my ears to listen in on their conversations. After reaching the edge, I noticed 5 of them come to a standstill. A burly person among them is talking to everyone. The second male member, on the other hand, is a skinny dude. There's no need for me to think, the muscular figure is the leader of the group, and the slim guy could be an auxiliary kind wizard on this team. My problem comes from the fact that there are 3 girls on this team. I wasn't sure what their role was on the team, but I'm sure that burly man is a power mage physique variant. He is capable of launching a direct assault. Maybe the slim guy is baggage. He will be unable to assist in a fight. Looking at the three women causes a small glitter in my eyes. I couldn't tell their specific characteristics from this distance. Only their backs are visible to me. However, I saw three of them wearing similar adventure outfits. The height difference is minimal. If my hunch is true, one of them must be holding a long-range spell. Another might be a healer, and I had no idea about the last woman. This is a common template for an adventuring team. The adventurer team can correct their flaws if they form the team with suitable combinations. These are simply my guesses. I'm curious whether it's true or not. A new development takes place quickly while I'm engrossed in my thoughts. When I realized this, I retracted my thoughts and looked ahead. I couldn't understand what was being said by them. But it's clear to me that the big guy is arguing with his team. I recall him pointing fingers at the skinny person next to him. What are they up to? They are arguing in this area. My brow furrowed in confusion. But my intuition tells me that something has happened. The skinny guy, I'm not sure what he did to irritate the power mage. You can't reason with most of them, physique-type wizards, since they have brain damage. My pupils narrowed the second I felt sorry for the thin guy. Three of the women began to move when the muscular man pointed his fingers at the skinny guy. One of the female members raised her hand fast to cast some spells. As I saw the interesting scenes in front of me, my eyes lit up with surprise. These women are the typical elemental wizards. She recited certain words before the blazing red magic circle was formed. Then from the red magic circle several scorching arrows shot at the bulky figure. This scene makes me think of movies and comic books. Previously, only conventional wizards could do such feats. They would recite words before casting the magic spell. I'm not sure why some groups continue to do things the old way. We've come a long way in terms of technological improvements. Many ancient spells have been modified to allow for quick casting. My 3 gravity spells are also modified. Because of it, I can accomplish instant casting. I'm not sure if she's being foolish or not. But the scorching fire radiating from the arrow is no laughing matter. When she launched her attack, the burly man responded quickly by evading those arrows one by one. My lips curved into a faint smile. Seeing his failure to use magic to stop the arrows, my suspicion was confirmed. The burly man is a power wizard. Unless and until he gets into close battle. These long-range fire attacks are impossible to avoid. The skinny guy kept his distance from the burly man. When I saw that, I raised my eyebrows in curiosity. That skinny dude is the cause for this conflict. But he is watching everything silently. Exactly as I had predicted, the burly man sprinted towards the female fire wizard. My attention was then pulled to the other 2 females. One of them took action right away. Yet another traditional user, I grumbled. Another woman, like the fire wizard, murmured some phrases before casting the spells. The ground beneath the burly figure began to shift abruptly. The hard surface immediately softens. Because of it, the burly man's speed has been significantly reduced. The flame wizard took advantage of the situation by releasing multiple flame arrows at him. After viewing that, I gulped my saliva. The power mage is now vulnerable to attacks. Following that, the flaming arrows struck him relentlessly. Bang, bang, bang. A deafening sound is still resonating across the area. In the haze, I can't see his entire figure. My gaze then shifts to the earth elemental wizard, while her friend unleashes a barrage of flame attacks on him. She's taking her time trapping her opponent's feet. Ahhhhh. An agonizing shriek could be heard. Sigh, his body is finally breaking down. It's only a matter of time before he sustains a serious injury. I have no idea what he did to deserve this. But I can confirm that the 2 women are not mere team members. With that, I also feel that the 3rd woman is not simple either. She observes everything without blinking. In the blink of an eye, time passes. After 5 minutes, the shriek died away. The fire wizard stopped casting the spell. When I consider the entire circumstance, just one thing strikes my mind. Where does she get her fire mana from to cast such long casting spells? Something wasn't right. Obviously, there are things I'm not aware of. I've just taken my first step down the wizard's road. I might be able to clear up all of my doubts in the future. The fire wizard approached the burly figure. She raised her hand to get rid of all the smoke. When the smoke cleared, I saw the burnt body of a burly man. He was thoroughly burnt from head to toe and his adventurer's suit was ripped to shreds. There isn't a single hair on his head. Witnessing such a cruel scene, I gulped down my saliva. All of a sudden, I unintentionally trod on a nearby twig. Crack! As I listened to the cracking sound, my heart skips a beat. It was only a slight noise, but it drew the attention of 4 of them. The fire wizard came to a halt and looked in my direction. Then, all three of them glanced at the skinny guy for an answer. The thin guy closed his eyes to check. After a few minutes, he opened his eyes. Then, he simply shook his head in response. When I saw all four of them, my heart began to race. That slender dude is a sensory-type magician, as my intuition predicted. I'm not sure what he did, but I sighed in relief that he didn't notice my presence. Then the burnt body begins to move unexpectedly. He is not dead. My eyes lit up in surprise as I grumbled. The burly man wasn't entirely gone. I must say, these power-type wizards are quite difficult to kill. Then I watched the other four people's reactions. At this point, the female fire mage was furious. Her expression shows that she wasn't expecting this situation. The third woman, though, made a startling movement. My expression became solemn. I suspected the third woman was not entirely innocent from the start. I'm curious to see what she's up to now. The third, petite woman approached the burnt body. When she sees the charred state of the burly man, her little face cracks a vicious smile. She pulls a black dagger from her pocket and makes a thrust at the burly man's heart. 3 of them. Midway through, I gulped my saliva and muttered, "Crazy." The burly man had stopped moving after being stabbed. I noticed 3 women staring at each other. They appear to have reached a decision at this time. The third woman did not draw the black dagger. She left the dagger in opponent's chest. She then proceeded to approach the other 2 female wizards. On the other hand, the slim guy checked their surroundings once again at this point. The skinny guy joined the conversation after checking his surroundings. They then talked about something amongst themselves. They then strolled towards the inner area a few minutes later, leaving behind a burnt body on the ground. I watched them leave and then returned my attention to the charred corpse. I'm not sure how to respond to this. I'm not innocent, but these women are on a different level. I remembered how hard I had to work to bring Jake House to this wilderness. In comparison to mine, they have killed with ease. Sigh. After clearing my head, I let out a long breath. It's not a good idea to compare myself to these women. They have the ability to kill everyone who comes across them. In contrast, I am not a serial killer. I had anticipated these women to take something from the charred corpse. They didn't, however. This indicates that the problem was something else. A peculiar sparkle appears in my eyes. It's also time for me to head inside. I looked in the direction 4 of them had gone. It is precisely in the northwest direction. Then I made the decision to travel northeast. After that, I quietly emerged from the woods and went towards the location. The landscape changed visibly once I ventured into the inner area. Unlike the surrounding area, this location has a lot of hills. Even if someone wishes to flee, they must first locate the exit route. Otherwise, surviving in this location while being pursued by monsters would be challenging. My eyes have a faint sparkle. It's common to encounter monsters on these hills. But I'm not sure which order they belong in. It's alright if it's a second-order monster, but if it's a third-order monster, there's no sense in staying here. That's why, before moving further into the inner area, I considered testing the monster's strength in the area around me. I take out the wilderness map again to double-check. Several hilltops were drawn on this map, as I predicted. When you get over these hilltops, you'll see a wide plain beyond them. You must pass through this region to get to these plains. I also had the impression that a wide plain is not simple. There's a chance you'll run into a third-order monster there, which, at my current level, is far too early. But then I remembered those women and the skinny dude. I can very certainly confirm their destination now. They plan to do something on the plains. What could possibly draw them in? Several ideas spring to mind. Then I realized I should be concerned about my personal safety out here. Forget broad plains, these ordinary-looking mountain hills alone represent bigger dangers to me. I chose a few spots from the map after gaining some clarity. Some hilltops are close to the border of the outer area. If a situation arises, it will be easier for me to retreat to the outer area. Then I stowed the map in my storage bracelet and moved towards the destination. In the blink of an eye, time passes. After an hour of crossing various hard paths, I was finally getting closer to the first target. A little peak lies ahead of me. At the same time, there is an outside area's border behind me. Now I'm walking along the narrow route that connects both of these locations. According to the map, this route is frequently used by adventure teams. There is also the possibility of encountering them at this place, as I doubted as I walked down the short route. But I had already decided to go check out this hill. So I'm not going to change my mind on the spur of the moment. Then I continued to walk along the little route that led higher. While walking forward, I keep one eye on my surroundings. I don't want any monsters to appear in front of me all of a sudden. Especially in this narrow route, where even taking moving around would be difficult. As time passes, as I got closer to my destination, I heard a clashing sound. When I heard that, I slowed down. Then I proceeded with caution to assess the situation. My eyes widened with surprise as I witnessed two boar monsters collide. I mistake their clashing for a fight between a team of adventurers. Now, I stumbled upon an excellent opportunity. System, probe their details, I said to the system. Ding. The host's voice is recognized. Ding. The command is executed. Status panel. Name, common wild boar. Level, first order. Strength, 15. Vitality, 16. Speed, 12. Stamina, 11. Ability, wild dash. Status panel. Name, common wild boar. Level, first order. Strength, 14. Vitality, 13. Speed, 13. Stamina, 10. Ability, wild dash. I was staring at their statistics in front of me. I can only describe them as feeble. However, not all other first-order monsters possess stats comparable to wild boar monsters. I suppose these common monsters have inherent restrictions. They will not evolve after they have reached a certain point. In my eyes, a fascinating sparkle appears. I looked around while these two boars sought to hurt each other with their protruding tusks. I don't want anybody to appear out of nowhere and ruin my haul. Time passed. These two boars ran out of juice after 10 minutes. Nonetheless, these two monsters retained their wild inclinations. These boars refused to back down from this fight. A little smile formed on my lips as I observed the event. The only thing threatening about these boars were their tusks. It's simple to kill them as long as you keep your distance. When it was my turn to emerge, I came forward unexpectedly and began to cast my magic. Gravity failed. In the blink of an eye, an invisible field formed around me. These exhausted monsters collapsed to the ground all of a sudden. The tremendous pressure exerted by gravitational pull causes their whole orifices to bleed. The pressure quickly knocked these wild boars off their feet as they screamed in anguish. They can only die in silence now. Fortunately, my mana reserve grew as a result of my talent upgrade. Otherwise, exerting pressure on these two creatures at the same time would be tough. I noticed their vitality points were dwindling. I suppose their internal organs couldn't tolerate the pressure. It may appear to be fine on the outside, but I'm sure their inside organs are bleeding right now. Time passed. I kept using my mana without hesitation. The gravity field gave these first-order beasts no hope of survival. These two boars entirely lose their breath as their vitality decreases to 0. I dispelled the gravity magic after confirming it. Then I noticed the condition of the two corpses. These two boars, unlike wild rabbits, will bring me a good price. Then I approached the corpses and extracted the first-order crystal jewels one by one with my own knife. I had 2 brown-colored crystal jewels in my palm a few minutes later. I put these stones in my storage bracelet after giving it a quick glance. What to do with the corpses now? Should I cut them up into tiny pieces or put their full bodies in my storage bracelet? In my eyes, a gleam shines. My personal knife is insufficient to sever their skin. As a result, dissecting their parts is tough. I should have a proper weapon next time I come here. Then, out of desperation, I placed the 2 wild boar corpses in a storage bracelet. Next, I opted to spend the night here before venturing elsewhere. On my first formal journey, I have killed 3 monsters. There is, however, nothing to be proud of. The stats of these 3 monsters were quite low. My previous classmate could have done it. As a Class A1 student, I must face more dangerous monsters. In my heart, a faint expectation arose. Maybe I'll find some good monsters tomorrow. Wilderness? After killing 2 boars, I didn't come across any further monsters. Later on, I discovered a safe place to spend the night. Next morning. It's the last day of the weekend. I intend to return home fast today after hunting a few monsters. So, like yesterday, my goal would be to explore similar spots like these. I walked down the narrow path after getting ready. Surprisingly, I came upon an adventure team while walking down. This little team is made up of 3 men. I have no intention of engaging in conversation with them. I simply strolled right by them. The team's leader, on the other hand, is a middle-aged male. When he noticed a single individual walking past him, he lifted his brows. Simultaneously, his comrades looked to him for an order. But he remained silent. Someone venturing into the wilderness. He is either foolish or tremendously strong, especially when soloing. A sparkle shoots across his eyes. The individual who walked past him, in his opinion, had a tender face. So he is probably much younger than the 3 of them. As a result, such a person cannot be stronger than oneself. His lips form a devious smile. Rather than fighting the monsters, the most common method in the wilderness is to plunder others. Then he gestured to his teammates, who swiftly understood him. Their reaction shows that this is not their first loot. They did not instantly attack Vincent Carey as experienced individuals would. Before they carried out their plan, one of them decided to stalk him. The leader is wary. He does not want the individual to be notified. Who can say? What is he keeping hidden in the storage bracelet? 3 of them chose not to act before confirming the other party's locations. As a result, one of them proceeded to follow Vincent in secret. As I walk down, I have the feeling that something is awry. So far, the only thing I've come across is a 3-person team. My eyes have a faint sparkle. I quickly spun around to see if anyone was following me from behind. But, to my dismay, there was no one there but for an empty small route. But the sensation I had was no laughing matter. My instincts had never failed me. I then reduced my speed. I walked down the path at a leisurely pace. But my mind went into overdrive. I decided to make a minor adjustment to my plan. I needed to find some open space to advance and retreat in order to ensure there was no threat around me. This hilly terrain is unsuitable for battle. You could fall behind the cliff if you take one wrong step. So I made the decision to leave as soon as possible. Mason Terrell, on the other hand, was the hunter who was following Vincent. Mason Terrell is a knife wizard of level 1. He looked to be in his 40s. He has dark hair and dark eyes. He is approximately 6 feet tall. He has a tanned complexion. Right now, according to the order of the leader, he'd been looking at the young hunter. Surprisingly, this young hunter is not stopping on his journey. Both have long since deviated from the main route. Mason was in a pickle. People usually take a break at some point. Then, taking advantage of the situation, he will attack the individual and wait for his team members to arrive. However, if he makes any rash steps right now, the guy may run. Mason does not want to put himself in a precarious position. It only takes time. He can wait patiently until then. When the person has settled down, he will notify his teammates. The 3 of them will then devise a plan to start the looting. Since they don't know the other person's background, it's vital for them to leave behind no traces. It just requires a lot of intelligence, but it's a lot safer than hunting wild monsters. In the blink of an eye, time passes. After 2 hours, I arrived at the broad plain that leads to other little hilly slopes. This small plain only covers a small area. It will come to an end when you reach the foot of the hills. Later, I'll have to locate a similarly narrow path to the summit of the hill. After accomplishing 2 goals, a little smile appeared on my lips. The first to reach the vast plains to confront the enemy, and the second to reach the hilltops in search of more first-order monsters. I noticed a huge tree from a distance. I'll take a break in its shade. I made my decision and proceeded to the enormous tree. I suddenly had the same eerie feeling as before. As expected, something is staring at me, I muttered under my breath. But I didn't show any reaction on my face. After all, I now have the system, so it'll only be a matter of time before I figure out what's troubling me. It will either be an undiscovered monster or a bunch of adventurers. When I got closer to the tree, I realized how massive it was. The canopy and crown of the tree are large enough to shade a small dwelling. When I realized this, I accelerated my pace. Mason Terrell, on the other hand, exhaled a sigh of relief. He has been stalking this person for more than 3 hours. And now he can take a deep breath. Mason has no doubt that the enormous shade tree is where the individual is going to rest. Then he wasted no time in telling his squad via his communication watch. They will take some time to arrive here. So, in order to keep the individual from escaping their hands, he must devise a strategy to assault him. Mason is looking for blind spots when Vincent decides to take a break under the shade of the tree. He cannot perform long-range attacks, unlike elemental wizards. The only thing he can do is get into the enemy's blind spot and attack him. Mason went carefully towards the enormous shade tree. Alternatively, I picked a random rock on which to lie down. The surroundings of the shade tree are very different. The cooling mood created by the shade is enough to calm you down. Despite the fact that I no longer feel on edge, my mind is much more at ease now. I kept my eyes open even though I was taking a short break. My gaze was drawn back to the previous route where there was a sudden rustle of leaves. Something seemed to move away from the bushes. I'm not sure if it's a sound created by monsters or hunters. Without further ado, I told the system, probe the target's details. Ding! The host's command is recognized. Ding! The command is executed %. Status panel. Target's name, Mason Terrell. Magic ability attack weapon. Everyday knife. Mage level 1 limiter. Weapon core status 40%. Mana power 250/300. Talent lower top. Color deep yellow. Fortune 25. Speed 24. Strength 26. Health 23. Intelligence 15. Soul power 17. Constitution 20. Mental power 16. Mental method knife art, low grade. Spells/skills, 2. 1. Swift stab 2. Fast handling. A blue status panel appears in front of my eyes seconds later. Then my eyes began to scan the data. This knife magic brings back unpleasant memories, I muttered as I analyzed the magical power. When I look at his poor data, my heart slows. It's no surprise they're afraid to fight the monsters. This person can be easily defeated by any top-level first-order monster. They had no other option but to loot to survive. My lips curved into a faint smile. My previous concerns were soon dispelled. It's not an unknown monster, but rather a helpless hunter. I'm guessing this guy is one of the 3 I've met before. There's no need to speculate about their motivation. They had already mistook me for a softie. It's fortunate that this hunter is a level 1 wizard. It would have been a pain if it was a level 2 wizard. As I recall the leader, a gleam sparks in my eyes. If it's a level 2 wizard, I need to get rid of this guy before they arrive. I was aware that the stats of level 1 and level 2 wizards were vastly different. A level 1 wizard with 40 stats, for example, is significantly weaker than a level 2 wizard with similar stats. The second one broke the restriction to advance to the next level. As a result, we can't compare the power level. That's why I had previously avoided the first adventurer team. If I don't kill the man in front of me, he'll keep stalking me and passing on my information to others. It's difficult for me to confront a level 2 wizard at my present level. However, it is sufficient to defeat the level 1 wizard in front of me. In my eyes, a cruel glitter flares as I resolve to act quickly. Then I start looking at the person's position. Police headquarters. A few journalists stayed on the grounds of the police wizard building. Many of them left at the same time that the capital's top brass exited the building. After everyone has fulfilled Tyler Dixon's final ceremony, the atmosphere inside the police headquarters is returning to normal. The police officers then return to their previous lives. Around the building, there is a somewhat dark feeling. However, it is insufficient to have an impact on people's jobs. The increased criticism of the police force has contributed to the gloomy environment. Lower-level wizards are concerned now that the police force has lost a level 4 wizard. They have no idea what their superiors are up to next. The media has recently gone insane. Every now and then, they criticize the police force. Especially since the media learned about Tyler Dixon's health problems prior to his death. It indirectly helps them in creating a large amount of content about the police force. Despite the fact that everything was going on outside, some folks were unconcerned. Especially the teams that participated in the emergency mission. They have chosen to remain mute in the face of the current circumstances. They were preoccupied with their own affairs. Except for Alan Pitts, the rest of the squad members went about their business inside the police station. Alan Pitt's unexpected resignation had no effect on his teammates. Everyone is looking forward to gaining strength. At the same time, they are also waiting for word from the department head. For the time being, they have only apprehended Leon Willie. The Poison Dagger faction has 2 more level 4 wizards. After removing the 2 rogue wizards, everyone can breathe a sigh of relief. The cat and mouse game will continue till then. Wizard Billy had previously demonstrated enough might to persuade them. So no one will deny the power of a level 5 wizard. The investigation department head's cabin. Old Man Billy, who sat in his seat and appeared to be buried in his own thoughts. For him, the last several days have been insane. Some of those who traveled here demanded to meet him in person, particularly the capital's wizards. He would have readily complied if it had been a request from a level 5 wizard. Those who had requested a meeting, however, were all level 4 wizards. He is disgusted by those level 4 wizards. Now that he knows, none of them came to express their sympathies. The majority of them came here to learn more about Leon Willie. Previously, he had only informed his superior. However, recalling previous incidents, he believes some people are unable to remain silent. Everyone wants to know where Leon Willie is right now. When he thinks about it, veins appear on his brow. Just because they are from the capital, it didn't give them any right to order around here. Ever since he had that encounter, his mood has become sullen. As per his superior's order, he had successfully captured Leon Willie. That rogue is currently rotting in an underground cell. Previously, he had sent a report about their disgusting behavior at Tyler Dixon's funeral. Wizard Billy is unsure what decision the higher-ups will make. There is a good likelihood of a swift transfer occurring. Leon Willie, unlike other rogues, is rather unique. His body is the product of forbidden research. If the truth is out, many wizards would fight for bits of his body. The Magical Union, in particular, is willing to pay any price to obtain Leon's body. As he recalled those experiences, a faint smile formed on his lips. He was thinking when he suddenly received a notification. Buzz. When he saw the person's name, he wrinkled his brow. What exactly is he doing here? Billy, the old man, murmured to himself. He needs to show some face because he's a level 5 wizard. The door opened when he hit the button. Creak, the hefty guy entered the cabin. After speaking with Eva, Dale Berg, the Battle Hall's department head had previously notified Billy Woods about the interrogation. However, Dale received no reaction. He was well aware of the gravity of the situation. The guy they had imprisoned in an underground cell was far more valuable than they could have anticipated. Dale Berg wishes to gather as much information from Leon Willie as possible before the people of the capital issue any orders. It will be a big relief for their police force if they can get rid of the plague of poison daggers. Dale Berg was also irritated with the fact that the number of wizards killed by poison dagger rogues was not insignificant. Dale Berg, on the other hand, would like to do the same because Wizard Billy had captured one rogue. Several ideas crossed his mind. Then, without looking at Old Man Billy, he sat in the other seat. At the same time, the door behind them closed on its own. In Old Man Billy's eyes, a fleeting gleam appears. Dale Berg's mission was clear to him. Normally, this person is uninterested in the investigative department. Now he's here because of the current situation. Sigh. Wizard Billy sighed heavily. Dale Berg, seeing this, chuckled and said, "You appear to be doing well. But I thought you would plan something to get revenge." Harumph, Billy Woods immediately snorted upon hearing that. It was due to revenge that he had personally led the emergency mission. But it's all thanks to that anonymous person. He was able to locate Leon Willie within the city of Bellbrook. While he was thinking, Dale Berg asked, by the way, how did you find out Leon Willie's location? Old Man Billy's heart skips a beat. He hadn't expected him to ask this question right now. Then he returned his gaze and asked, can you tell me your purpose? You won't come here until it's really necessary. Dale Berg's face lit up when he heard that. I eagerly await to hear Leon Willie's answer. It is only feasible if you are available, he added, smiling. Billy had a look of understanding on his face. He hadn't expected Dale to be that interested in this. He appears to be eager to gain credit. In his eyes, a fascinating sparkle appears. Dale Berg, on the other hand, was taken aback. He had the impression that the old man in front of him was scrutinizing him. Damn it, old man, he thought to himself. He was embarrassed, but he didn't show it on his face. He had hoped to obtain some information from Old Man Billy's mouth earlier. Everyone, including him, is curious as to how he discovered Leon Willie's whereabouts. Sadly, he can only talk about other subjects right now since he is unwilling to reveal it. Then he remembered something. He received some bad news concerning the city's police force today. For a little moment, he cast a glance at the wizard Billy. Observing that Billy Woods is composed and serene, Dale Berg swiftly changed the subject, claiming, the media were destroying the image of our police wizard force. We wouldn't have received such harsh criticism if you hadn't suppressed the news about Leon Willie. Billy Woods rolled his eyes at him, knowing that if he didn't agree to the request, Dale Berg would continue to blab about the mission. Okay, fine. Old Man Billy finally murmured, touching his brow. After lunch, we'll begin the interrogation, he added. Ha ha ha, I knew you'd agree to my request. Dale Berg laughed heartily. Wizard Billy had dark lines over his brow. He is desperate for this individual to leave his cabin. He suddenly remembered something and inquired, what about others? Dale Berg understood what he meant when he heard that. They are not the only level 5 wizards in this building. There were others as well. Billy's attitude clearly bothers somebody out there. Sigh. Don't worry, they won't interfere in the activities of the investigative department, Dale Berg groaned. Particularly when higher-ups have already delegated authority to you. They won't dare to make any noise anymore, he added further. When he heard that, old Billy exhaled with relief. He really doesn't want to face the other level 5 wizards about this. He wouldn't have listened to Dale if Eva didn't work in the Battle Hall department. Before Dale left the cabin, they talked about a few more things. He quickly notified Eva of the news after stepping out. He returned to his cabin after sending it. He is eager for the interrogation to begin. Ms. Eva, on the other hand, is speaking with her colleagues on the second floor. She read it right away as her communication watch lit up with a notification. When she learned that the interrogation would begin after lunch, her eyes brightened up with surprise. Then she instantly cancels her plans for today. She must be in peak condition prior to the interrogation. She hastily excused herself from the conversation and headed to her team's cabin. Earlier, she had some reservations about confronting Leon Willie, but as the time approached, a glimmer of doubt appeared in her heart. There's a slim chance she'll screw everything up. Wilderness? The mood is both serene and surreal. The breeze blew past me. The gentle breeze is brushing against my face. I would have slept soundly if I hadn't been in a life-or-death scenario right now. Unfortunately, I don't have time to appreciate nature's beauty. Because I spotted my attacker, a black shadow moved quickly from one location to another. Despite moving in random steps, I can see him approaching me. I had no visible reaction on my face. There's a chance things will go awry if I alerted the enemy. Then killing him would be difficult. Gravity magic is a type of control power. I can only use my powers when he enters my field. I'm not going to show any noticeable reaction till then. At the moment, I was aware of an obvious flaw in myself. I have no other means of attack than 3 gravity spells. I usually rely on gravity fields amongst gravity spells. It alone does half of my work. I can easily kill an enemy as long as he is in my field. But if it were the opposite situation, I'm just a harmless chicken. For example, if there had been an archer-type wizard, I would have been long dead. My spine tingled just thinking about it. I'm still quite frail. I shouldn't expose myself in front of people recklessly. The enemy in front of me is a knife wizard. He obviously needs to get closer to me if he wants to kill me. I was regretting my hasty decision at the time. I had previously passed by the group despite my knowing of their presence. I should have kept my distance from them, I uttered. It's pointless to worry about it now. Who can say? A simple encounter would put me in danger. I cleared my mind as I heard the faint sound of footsteps. My senses became alarmed next. I could feel the enemies closing in on me. Then I waited for a suitable opportunity after feeling that way. Time passed. Mason Terrell rushed out of the woods at breakneck speed. He dashed towards the young man and at the same time his right hand hidden behind his back. In his hands appeared a basic chili knife. He firmly grabbed the knife as it formed. Mason chose to use a rapid stabbing spell once he was close to the enemy's body. At the same time, a slight smile appeared on my face as I noticed the black shape emerging from the bushes. Just a bit more distance, I grumbled. Without further ado, I cast an instant magic. Gravity field came out of my mouth and took the opponent off guard. Mason Terrell saw his enemy's lips move, but before he realized it, he felt his heart escape through his mouth. In a second, an invisible gravitational field developed around me. My gaze was drawn to the enemy's frightening expression. I'm sure he was taken aback by the instant execution of a magical spell. Mason Terrell wanted to say something, but the tremendous pressure crushed his body into the ground. First, his face was smacked on the ground directly. Boom! That heinous hit injured him greatly. Red blood began to ooze from his brow gradually. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. I didn't dispel the gravity spell after carrying out my strategy. Rather, I kept the field in stable condition. I want to hear the sound of his bone cracking. I continued to apply invisible pressure to him. His mouth opened with a frightful yell. I noticed the materialized knife in his hands diminish slightly. Images of an old beggar who attempted to assassinate me a few weeks ago flashed before my eyes. It simply made my calm heart churn with rage. My eyes sparkle with a cruel glitter. Unknowingly, I expended more mana. This increased the gravitational pull within the field. I heard something shattering. Mason Terrell's bones wouldn't be able to endure the pressure any longer, I knew instinctively. Mason Terrell was having trouble breathing this time. He couldn't even scream out loud. Unknowingly, his gaze was drawn to the young man's tender-looking face. Am I going to die? He felt bad about himself. But it was too late to intervene. Mason became aware of a young man approaching him. He gripped the knife securely. However, under the enemy's influence, he has a tough time maintaining the form of a magical weapon. When he notices the young man a few steps away, he has a sudden realization. It is difficult to kill him because he cannot reach the opponent. But now that the opponent is approaching him, it's an excellent time for him to attack. Mason sought to ingest as much mana as he could to sustain his materialized knife under tremendous pressure. On the other hand, I walked in unhindered on my own field. I keep listening to the enemy's bone-cracking sound. I then double-check the statistics. Mason Terrell's vitality points begin to dwindle gradually. It will only be a matter of time before he completely loses his breath. But I can't wait that long. Something doesn't feel right. It's been several hours since I left the previous site. And he's been following me the whole time. He may have informed others. I can't be certain. But my senses tell me to get out of here as soon as possible. So I'm not going to underestimate my adversary. I then removed the knife from the storage bracelet. I kept this knife in case of an emergency, but I never imagined I'd be using it against the knife wizard himself. I stepped closer to the enemy, who was half dead on the ground, his bones starting to crumble as the seconds passed. I'm still annoyed by the slower dropping of vitality stats. Then I directed the knife at the opponent's body. At the same time, I continued to use extra mana for safety reasons. When I chose to slice Mason's throat, Mason used the might of his upper body to cast spells. Quick stab, Mason shouted. Mason's knife was brought back to life by that spell and it shined brightly. When I heard his words, on the other hand, I took a step back without thinking. Mason's knife pierced the empty air when I shifted from the previous position in front of me. All of this happened in the blink of an eye under the gravitational force. This guy? I said. He planned to utilize his last ounce of strength in a magical spell. PFFF. Mason Taro plummeted into the ground again in the next second due to gravitational pressure. Seeing this, I used stats to check his vitality once more. When the point reached 0, the vitality dropped dramatically. I could tell he ran out of air. I dispelled my magic after confirming it. Phew, this person tried to be too clever just now. Fortunately, I'm not hindered in my own magical field. My gaze was drawn to his body. A good plan occurs to me. I cut his communication watch and storage bracelet from his wrist with my knife. Then I started going through all of his other possessions. Aside from the storage band, nothing valuable was discovered in his body. Following that, I dragged his body in the opposite direction to dispose of it. The stench of his death will soon draw a swarm of monsters to this location. So, after disposing of the corpse, I moved quickly. My gaze was drawn to distant mountainous summits. I need to traverse this wide plain first to get there. Then, all of a sudden, I remembered something. I removed his communication watch. Looking at the active signal, I realized it could be used as a beaker. I threw it aside after realizing and I decided to check on his storage bracelet later. Time passed. I kept walking along the plains. I walked through various difficult, tight trails, boulders, and pits. With the exception of a few trees here and there, I could see the entire plain. To obtain some perspective, I reviewed the map. This map contains no danger points. That seems strange to me. I'm guessing this map isn't completely accurate. You can only obtain half of the truth. So I didn't let down my guard, even if the vast plain appeared to be devoid of monsters. After a short way, I discovered an excellent area to rest. The journey has been peaceful so far. Sitting down on a rock, I started to ponder. Fortunately, I have not yet encountered a monster. Then I remembered Mason Terrell. I considered checking into his bracelet. My mental fortitude is impressive. So it didn't require much effort on my part. I noticed the piled up stuff after getting my mind within the bracket. Only a few of the items are familiar to me. Crystal gems, restorative potions, and monster-repelling powder are all included. My lips curved into a faint smile. These items will undoubtedly come in handy if I decide to travel further. My attention was drawn to a few metallic boxes beside it. My heart then tinged with intrigue. I quickly took it outside to look at it. After inspecting the metallic box, I opened it. Inside the box, I noticed a small black dagger with a sharp edge. A tiny smile appeared on my face. I was pondering how to dissect the monster's body earlier. I can now collect the monster's body pieces with the use of this dagger. I held the dagger in my hands and made random movements to obtain a sense of it. Then my gaze was drawn to the pointed end. Suddenly, a thought came to me. Probe the details, I instructed the system. Ding! The host's voice is recognized. Ding! The command is executed. Status panel. Name, Black Dagger. Rank, 1. Attribute, non magical. In front of my eyes was a blue status panel. As I examined the details, my eyes glowed with delight. I rested the black dagger in my palm after a few strikes. The weapon stats did not surprise me. Mason was a knife wizard at level 1. It was typical for him to be wielding rank 1 weaponry. But the status panel also gave me a tip. It demonstrates that the dagger is a simple model weapon devoid of magical runes. Otherwise, the weapon status would not be this simple. True magical weapons have a wide range of stats, from attacking power to penetrative power. This is what I learned in the runes class. However, in my current situation, this weapon is enough. My heart swelled with interest. How awesome would that be? If I get to wield a gravity magic weapon, it will undoubtedly help me save mana. Even with such a high mana reserve, I'm hesitant to consume it. because it will take me several hours to replenish the mana reserve once it is depleted. Previously, I unknowingly drained too much mana from the reserve. I want to see my current statistics. System, show my status panel. I instructed the system. Ding. The host command is recognized. Ding. Level up system. Status panel. Host's name, Vincent Carey. Magic power, gravity. Mage level 1 limiter. 1.5 years remain to level up. Mental method, gravity arc, running. Grade, earth. Running mode, automatic. Rate of absorption, 80%. Gravity core status, 1.1%, progressing. 5.5%/month. Core formless. Mana power, 150. Mana capacity, 700. Talent, top bottom, upgradable. Color pale orange. Strength, 30. Speed, 31. Stamina, 33. Vitality, 75. Intelligence, 27. Soul power, 25. Constitution, 26. Mental power, 29. Spells, 3. 1. Gravity field, 2. Gravity push, 3. Gravity pull. A status panel in blue emerges in front of me. My attention was then drawn to my mana power. I twitched as I saw my current mana reserve drop down to 150. Several ideas spring to mind. Now I can only fight 1 or 2 first-order creatures. When my mana reserves are depleted, I shall resort to fist fights. Except for power-type wizards, it's quite rare for wizards to engage in close combat. But I truly want to give it a shot. Other than 3 magical spells, I have no other methods of attack. If I can use my fist and dagger more in the future, it will boost my confidence. A sudden sparkle flashed in my eyes as these thoughts erupted in my heart. If I gain enough close combat experience, I'll be able to defeat lower-level enemies with my bare hands without using gravity magic at all. It will eventually conserve my mana reserves. As I remembered combat class in high school, my lips twisted into arcs. It's no surprise that Mr. Freeman was determined to train everyone. You must have some basic close combat experience, even if you are an auxiliary wizard. Combat class, how? It was intended to be for practicing in close combat. It is now used to rank duels. Everyone is so focused on their personal ranks that they have forgotten the true purpose of combat class. At the same time, I have sympathy for Mr. Freeman. He desires to train everyone. However, students are more likely to focus on their magic. Except for Fatty, I don't recall anyone else engaging in close combat without the use of magic. So the current combat class was in an entirely different sort of situation. It is impossible to persuade others to adopt the combat class's original idea. I may only request sparring partners if I wish to enhance my close combat class. At the same time, I'd like to learn how to naturally enhance my stats. Because of relics, my vitality point is high, treasure. However, I cannot use the same procedure for other stats. The relics are difficult to come by. Normally, if mana core creation progressed steadily, overall stats would rise. However, this is a time-consuming approach. If you wish to advance quickly, you must go to a blessed land like an academy. So the relic and mana core progressions are not currently on my list. I'll have to look for additional natural ways to boost my total stats. Suddenly, I heard a bird chirping in the distance. When I heard that, I retracted my thoughts. I almost forgot I'm here to hunt, not to plan for the future. Then I rose up from the rock, straightening my back. I chose to continue my journey as the wind blew in my face. Then I returned all of the metallic boxes to the storage bracelet. I'll check the other one when I get home, I grumbled. After getting ready, I walked along the straight road. Time went on. When I was walking leisurely along the road, my eyes caught a glimpse of a monster ahead of me. I walked a little bit closer to get a full view of the monster. It's a 4-horned sheep, I grumbled as I spotted the monster. Why do I remember the name? Because the meat of this monster is one of the most expensive meals in the restaurants of Red City. Customers who appreciated 4-horned sheep steaks as well as brown rabbit were in plenty. Count my blessings. I'm thinking about how I turned brown rabbit into pasted meat. I'm not going to repeat the mistake. Now I have a great opportunity to make some money. So, I'll be careful. My expression tightened slightly. Obviously, I'm not going to employ my gravitational force. I removed the black dagger from the storage bracelet and gripped it tightly in my hands. This 4-horned sheep is listed alongside the brown rabbit. These monsters pose no significant threat to level 1 wizards. But I still need to double-check the details. System, investigate the specifics of 4-horned sheep. I instructed the system. Ding. The host's voice is recognized. Ding. Command is initiated %. Status panel. Name, four-horned sheep. Level, first order. Strength, 21. Vitality, 18. Speed, 11. Stamina, 16. Skill, deadly bite, quick dash. In front of my eyes, a blue status display appears. When my eyes were fixed on the speed points, my lips twisted into small arc. I didn't even look at the skills. I breathed a sigh of relief. Because I don't need gravity magic to destroy this monster, I was given the opportunity to put my body's strength to the test. The four-horned sheep stands around 2 meters tall and weighs about 2 to 3 tons. I can only think about money when I see its gigantic size. Perhaps I should bring some meat home with me. Several ideas spring to mind. Manna steak for dinner is delicious. Then I chose to move after retracting my ideas. Whiz. I vanished and reappeared in front of the four-horned sheep. The four-horned sheep, who was grazing fields, was frightened all of a sudden. It has a timid personality. When it discovered a powerful opponent in front of it, it began to flee. I gave the monster a friendly smile. The monster is escaping at full speed. However, it moves quite slowly in front of my eyes. I went quickly and aimed my dagger at the monster. I made a quick move as I got closer to the monster's body. Using the black dagger, I slashed its throat. The skin of the monster is not as thick as I had thought. The dagger blade glided through the skin like butter. Pff. The ground was splattered with blood. The first order four-horned sheep was slaughtered in a single attack. The body of the monster fell on the ground. As a result, I wasted no time dissecting the parts. I finished the entire process in 15 minutes. I placed all of the monster's dissected parts in a metallic container, which I then placed in my storage bracelet. The entire process went well from start to finish. I barely broke a sweat. Then I checked the time. It's already beyond noon. I need to get back to the city before it gets late. I exhaled a sigh. Earlier, I intended to go to the end of the plains. If I continue on my journey, it will take a long time to get back. What should I do? After some deliberation, I made the decision to return to the city. Because I intend to sell the monster's bodily parts. It will take some time for that as well. It's time to call it quits on the hunt. After deciding to return, I dashed towards the border. To avoid running across Mason Terrell's palace, I chose a different way to reach it. I'm not sure why. But after making the decision to return, I feel a sense of relief in my heart. My thoughts became calmer as a result of it. Then I walked confidently towards my destination. As time passes, I arrived at the borders of the area 2 hours later. Fortunately, I didn't come across any monsters on the way here. It saved me a significant amount of time. As a result, I may make it to the city wall in time. This wilderness excursion has opened my eyes to new possibilities. The people I've met are not in the least bit ordinary. Everyone had their own personal style. There are a lot of things on my mind that need to be clarified. I'll clear my doubts one by one when I get home. As I considered the money, a slight smile appeared on my face. My financial problems have been resolved. If I come here every weekend, I'll most likely save a lot of money. I won't have to rely on my parents any longer. A gleam flashed over my eyes. I can't wait to go to Claudia's gym and practice. I want to see how my orange talent works within the mana chamber. This time, I feel the rate of mana absorption will be significantly higher. My instincts also tell me that I will benefit from my next visit to Claudia's gym. Then, retracting my thoughts, I proceeded with caution. I stepped inside the outer area after crossing the edge. And now you're more likely to run into humans than monsters here. I furrowed my brows. I don't want to get myself into any problems. Some folks, I believe, are waiting for weak hunters to loot. As these thoughts arose in my mind, I immediately increased my level of attentiveness. I arrived at the city wall 2 hours later, after traveling past several trees, flora, and a tough narrow path. I raised my eyes to the sky. The sun will set in a few hours. I made it in on time, I grumbled. I noticed a number of silhouettes coming out and heading towards the city wall at this point. Phew. I exhaled a sigh of relief. My return is much easier than my journey into the wilderness. I then walked towards the city wall, retracting my thoughts. I observed strange looks on the way. The majority of them are probably curious about my team. They won't believe me if I tell them I came here by myself. My pupils constricted suddenly. I never expected to see them so soon. I noticed the city guards individually screening the hunters. There were 4 hunters in total, the skinny guy and 3 maniac girls. Their expressions were devoid of any hint of remorse. They'd murdered their own captain. They have now returned to the city without hesitation. My heart rate gradually rises. I continue to walk in order not to exhibit any odd behavior. No one questioned me, because I had no expression on my face. No one can sense anything else from me besides a gloomy vibe. When I arrived at the queue, I stand behind the hunter. The city guards begin screening people one by one. It didn't take long, they just needed to show their identification and enter. Then I cast a casual glance at those 4 hunters. They were screened before entering the city. My heart sighed with relief. I'm most concerned about that skinny guy because he has auxiliary magical abilities. He is able to acutely aware of any anomalies in the surroundings. After looking at them, I relaxed my guard. My turn came quickly. Instead of the hunter's license, I presented my school ID. Before letting me in, the guard gave me a look. He didn't suspect me because it's common for the wizard students to wander around the grounds here. I didn't go straight to the Adventurers Union after entering the city. The first thing I did was activate the Communication Watch's general mode. There is nothing else in the notification except a few messages from my parents. I first responded to Mom's message saying I'd be home in a few hours. Surprisingly, my parents no longer bother me, especially since they know I'm working hard to improve my level. My elder brother is also unusually quiet. Perhaps he assumed I didn't have enough money to train at Claudia's gym any longer. My lips curved into gentle arcs as I remembered my brother. He's just a simpleton. He was envious of my newly gained talent and subsequent visit to Claudia's gym. What a jerk. I'm not sure what he'd do later if he knew I'd already surpassed him. I start thinking about the recent events in my life. My vision has begun to broaden as a result of my encounters with the police, Poison Dagger, Yellow River Academy, and now this Adventurer Union. I will sooner or later advance in my career. Then, after reconsidering, I decided to contact the Adventurer Union. I rented an air car to get there. The air car soon landed near the gate. After paying the fee, I exited the vehicle. Let's see how much money I can make from selling crystal gems, I muttered under my breath. Then I made my way to the front desk. I don't need any assistance this time. I made my way directly to the staff working behind the desk. She is the same woman who issued me a hunting license the day before. She raised her head to see me as I approached. Her face shows a surprised expression. She hadn't expected a school student to show up this time. Hi, can you help me with something? I asked before she opened her mouth to speak. After that, I told her about my successful hunting trip in the wilderness. I left out some information. I just mentioned the brown rabbit, the boar, and the 4-horned sheep to her. The big eyes of the staff widened in surprise. You are very lucky to come across these weak first-order monsters on your very first trip, she said. Lucky my $. I sneered inside. I was reflecting on how I had escaped from that strange adventurer group. More than luck, I believe it was due to my precautionary measures. Even later, when I was facing Mason Terrell, I ended him before his friends found out. It has a lot to do with preparation. I didn't say anything to her, though. I just want to get home as soon as possible. When the employee behind the desk noticed Vincent was silent, she stopped talking and began to explain the online store. She stated, "You are not required to come here. You can sell or trade it using our online store. Here, the delivery service is quite good." She then began to look up the current online price. When I heard that, I nodded and replied, "Well, I'll use it next time." It's not that I'm unfamiliar with the online store. But first, I'd like to learn more about the Adventurers Union. I'm currently a hunter without a party. You can learn a lot just by listening in on people's conversations here. Yesterday, that female wizard cast spells using traditional methods. It actually piqued my interest. Traditional methods require the use of ancient spells. Ancient spells were written in the language of a bygone era. Only after learning that language will you be able to recite words and form a magical circle in order to cast a spell. It is well known and is taught in history classes. I'm sure these people had powerful backgrounds. So if I want to learn about these topics, I have to come here frequently. I'm smart enough to realize that some information is restricted. Some information will not be passed down to the masses because powerful people will not allow it. Images of a fire wizard creating blazing magic circles flash before my eyes. Sigh. I'm curious if this world contains any ancient gravity spells. The other hand, the employee gave Vincent a strange look as she noticed him sighing and spacing out. What's the deal with this kid? She thought to herself. She then examined the cost of crystal gems for first-order monsters. The price of first-order crystal gems varies depending on the monster and the quality of the crystal gem. Only high-quality crystal gems can be used as potion ingredients. In addition, the prices of various monster species vary. In the wilderness, first-order monsters such as the brown rabbit, boar, and 4-horned sheep were common. These monsters' crystal gems were inexpensive when compared to rare first-order monsters like the green-spotted snake. She is aware that the hunter is a student. Then she starts explaining the prices of the crystal gems. I listen intently to her explanations. I'd like to learn more about rare monsters. She then proceeds to purchase the crystal gem in Vincent's hand after some discussion. City of Red. Police headquarters. Inside the dark and dreary prison cell, a silhouette sleeps on the ground. This particular prison cell is heavily fortified and dark. Leon Willie, a wanted criminal and level 4 mucus wizard, is the prisoner. Suddenly his body begins to tremble. Leon Willie's current health situation is deteriorating. As time passes, his body returns to normal. His trembling stopped. Then Leon Willie abruptly opened his eyes. He couldn't see anything through the pitch blackness. But, thanks to his level 4 mental strength, he is completely aware of his surroundings. Finally, he tried to probe grade 5 rune-inscribed handcuffs with his mental strength. When his mind touched the metallic handcuff that bound both of his wrists, he felt an immediate backlash. As the time passed, he couldn't handle the constant backlash. As a result, he eventually abandoned his probe attempt. Then there was PFFF. He spit blood out of his mouth. As he felt agonizing pain, his eyes became enraged. He's not unfamiliar with graded artifacts. He worked on a few himself. Regardless of the grade of the artifact, it will contain flaws. As long as he can exploit those flaws, he can gradually weaken the artifact's functionality. At this point, Leon Willie reverted to his former scholarly self. His mind raced to come up with a solution. However, as time passed, his every attempt to explore information was met with a severe backlash. Sigh. When he realized his current situation, he let out a small sigh. Then, using his mental strength, he began to probe his body. His mind scans his internal organs, bones, tissues, and blood before focusing on the most important part of his body, the heart. Specifically, the level 4 mana core that formed within the heart region. He let out a sigh of relief. Then a worried expression appeared in his eyes. He recalled something as he muttered to himself, blood rejuvenating potion. After carefully inspecting the mana core, he checks his blood circulation, which is the source of his problem. Leon Willie is aware that the entire world believes he carried out a successful forbidden experiment. To some extent, this is correct. However, he also experienced a corresponding side effect as a result of this. His blood was tainted as a result of the forbidden experiment. He made an exclusive blood rejuvenating potion for himself to compensate for the side effect. To ensure proper blood circulation in his body, he must consume the blood rejuvenating potion once a week. Otherwise, the side effect will eventually affect the functioning of his body parts, including his mana core. He does not have to be killed by the police wizards. If he does not consume the potion, he will die as a result of the side effects. Except for himself, no one knows about this. But now that he's been apprehended, he won't be able to consume the potion. While the symptoms have already begun to manifest, it will only be a matter of time before the side effects worsen. At this point, a thought occurred to him. It is preferable to die of side effects than to die at the hands of police wizards. He is a dark wizard in his own right. He knows what will happen once he dies here. Harumph, he snorted. He is aware that his body will be dissected and his practices will be investigated. Surprisingly, a small smile appeared on his lips. The side effects, on the other hand, will completely dissolve his body when it comes into contact with any foreign object. Even if some people try to investigate his body, they will hit a dead end. Various ideas cross his mind. Leon Willie recalls how he got here. That old B at SD purposefully avoided engaging in close combat. Leon Willie reflected. He is certain that his mucus magic is lethal enough to harm any level 5 wizard. The trick, however, is in close combat. As long as the level 5 wizard engages in close combat with him, he is certain to kill him by inflicting deadly poison on him. But Wizard Billy was astute enough to recognize this and purposefully distanced himself from him. Wizard Billy avoided his spellcasting range by relying solely on flight ability. He clenched his teeth in rage. Leon Willie realized at this point that he had underestimated his opponent's cunning level. He would have devised a different plan if he had known Billy Woods was such a cunning old fox. But it's too late to change anything. He fell into his opponent's trap. He suddenly realizes something. At first, Wizard Billy's unexpected arrival in Bellbrook City did not raise any concerns. But now in this dark prison cell, he has some alone time. His mind continues to replay the events of the past. Something seems off about it. Did someone sabotage me? He grumbled. Leon realizes that the old fox Billy has come to Bellbrook City to find him. And when he found Tyler Dixon's team members, he wanted to kill them, but he unwittingly fell into their trap. He shouldn't have left his hiding place. However, someone gave that police wizard his information. Leon Willie began to think about it seriously. The location of the poison dagger was only known to one person. Killian, he thought to himself. Leon does not believe Killian will act against him. At the same time, Killian acknowledges that my mere presence is the most effective deterrent to police wizards, Leon said to himself. So Killian wasn't stupid enough to shoot himself in the foot. Who could it be then? Leon Willie muttered to himself. The image of a specific person then flashes before his eyes. Xavier Harper, he said. But they are not at odds, and he believes the other person is not in this country. Then, whenever he recalls recent events, his heart swells with rage. Ahhhhhh. In frustration, he screamed aloud. But then a terrible pressure locked onto him from the outside. Leon Willie's face had turned pale with fear. Boom, the next second. His body was smashed up against the prison wall. The devastating blow knocked him out. Before his mind went blank, he heard a snorting sound from outside. No, S1, Brown Rabbit's Crystal Gem, Ordinary Quality, 500 Alliance Points. Boar's Crystal Gem, Nose 2 Ordinary Quality, 400 Alliance Points each, total 800. Four-Horn Sheep's Crystal Gem, Nose 1 Ordinary Quality, 500 Alliance Points. Total value, 1,800 Alliance Points. The female employee said one at a time. After saying that, she proceeded with the banking process. She added, "Here, I'm going to transfer the amount to your bank account." When I heard that, I nodded and turned my gaze to the projection screen. I retracted my gaze and turned towards her after confirming the transfer amount. "Well, thank you for your assistance. I'll see you next time," I said. After that, I walked out of the building. My communication watch lit up with a notification at the same time. Without even looking at it, I knew it was from the bank. After finally leaving the building, I double-checked my balance. A small smile appeared on my face when I saw the 1,800 number in my bank account. This money was earned solely through the sale of crystal gems. I'm curious what I can gain by selling those corpses. That requires me to find a suitable buyer. I immediately began looking for a suitable restaurant nearby. Some restaurants used to buy monster bodies as a whole. Then they will handle whatever process is required to create mana meat from it. I didn't find any good answers after a few minutes of searching. Then, all of a sudden, one post drew my attention. Delicious Bud Restaurant is in desperate need of a first-order monster body of any kind. Please note, the price is negotiable. My lips curved into arcs when I saw the notice. Because this restaurant is within walking distance of here. Mana meat, as expected, is always in high demand. It's no surprise that the food industry is thriving. I used the map to find the restaurant's location. After confirming the destination, I strolled towards it. I arrived in front of a medieval-style building a few minutes later. My eyes lit up with surprise as I looked at the building. It appeared to be a hotel rather than a restaurant. Then my gaze was drawn to the customer entering and exiting the shop. I proceed to enter after retracing my thoughts. I went inside and immediately found the manager. Then I explained the reason for my visit to him. After hearing that, he led me to the kitchen. I knew the chef would examine the corpse's condition. After entering the kitchen area, I waited outside. The manager walked into the room to call the chef. Soon after, I noticed a large man walking out of the kitchen with the manager. I recognized the fat guy as a chef based on his white coat. On his coat, I noticed an exclusive name badge. Gilbert. I muttered to myself. The chef, on the other hand, looked at the young man with surprise. He'd never done business with such young-looking people before. He then turned to face the manager next to him. Then he found the manager was as surprised as he was. "Do you really have a monster's corpse, young man?" Gilbert, the chef, inquired. I nodded when I heard that. I'm sorry if my appearance made them suspicious, but it's unavoidable. They won't believe it until they see the monster corpse for themselves. The manager, who was standing next to the chef, wasted no time. He led them both to a separate room where they could examine the monster's corpse. I entered the room and pulled 3 monster corpses from my storage bracelet in front of their eyes. Thud. 3 metallic boxes fell to the ground. A brief glint appears in the chef's eyes. He moved forward one by one, opening the metallic cases. He then began to inspect the body parts of a boar and a 4-horned sheep as soon as he saw them. Gilbert, the chef, pulls a premium knife from his pocket and begins slicing the monster's flesh. He began by slicing the 4-horned sheep's flesh. Because the steak of 4-horned sheep is one of their restaurant's premium dishes. As a result, its worth exceeds that of the common boar monster. The manager's mind, on the other hand, sprang into action. He used his brain to come up with a good deal after identifying the names of monsters. However, it can only be done after receiving approval from the chef. So the manager waited for Chef Gilbert to complete his inspection. The passage of time. After inspecting the tender meat of 3 monsters, a satisfied grin flashes across his face. "Good," he said, expressing his appreciation. After hearing that, the manager realized that monster meat was no less than premium quality, and the dishes made from it will undoubtedly meet today's demand, because their restaurant attracts a large number of customers at night. Previously, the manager was concerned about a lack of stock. That's why he put the notice on the internet. He exhaled a sigh of relief now that the problem had been resolved. Then his gaze was drawn to the young man in front of him. If I can make a private contract with him, I won't have to worry about running out of stock. He grumbled to himself. In the manager's mind, a good plan was hatched. They usually pay commission to third parties to buy monster corpses. As a result, they end up paying more money after purchasing the corpse. Because these monsters were in high demand in the food industry, many of the adventurer guilds here will ignore the mission notice if the reward is low. As a result, no one is willing to hunt these weak first-order monsters. When he retracted his thoughts, he noticed that both of them were staring at him. Cough. "Shall we talk about price?" According to the manager. I nodded when I heard that. Then, leaving the chef inside the room, we both walked outside. "Your good name?" the manager inquired of the young man. When I heard that, I nodded and said, "Hi, my name is Vincent Carey." The manager's eyes widened in surprise. He is interested in learning about the young man's background. In response, he simply stated his name. His face lit up with a witty grin. He then turned to face Vincent. The meat on the monster was all of the highest quality. "I can give you 300 alliance points each for boar monsters, and 400 points for the 4-horned sheep. So, 1,000 alliance points in total," the manager made a remark. "1000 alliance points," I exclaimed, taken aback. 2 days of wilderness excursions brought me a lot of money. It's no surprise that students are eager to return to wilderness trip. However, there is nothing wrong with the amount, because I saw the price in Fatty's restaurant before. Fatty also informed me of the manhwa meat dishes. So I can see that the manager struck a good bargain. "All right," I said. After learning the bank account, the manager nodded and immediately transferred the funds to Vincent. Buzz. To read it, I opened the notification. A small smile appeared on my face when I saw the number 2,800 in my bank account. The sum is not insignificant, but it is only a first-order monster. What about monsters of the second and third orders? I can easily double my money after selling the corpse of the second-order monster. Cough. After hearing the coughing sound, I retracted my thoughts. "I actually want to make a deal with you, young man," the manager said. "Deal?" In perplexity, I raised my brows. Seeing Vincent's doubtful expression, the manager explained the contract he had conceived. He waited for that young man to respond after explaining everything. On the other hand, I was taken aback for a brief moment. I'm still in high school. He may have misunderstood me. Only on weekends do I have free time. I'd already decided to spend my free time in the wilderness. So I don't have time for a contract position. So, looking the manager in the eyes, I replied, "I have not considered taking contract-type jobs for the time being." When the manager heard that, he felt a twinge of disappointment, but it quickly faded. He stated, "That's unfortunate. But, in the future, could you give us some priority?" I nodded, after which we exchanged contact information. I then left the restaurant after collecting those metallic containers. My lips curved into an arc unexpectedly. As a gesture of goodwill, the manager had previously given me a packet of seasoned meat. "I'll give it to Mom later," I muttered. I then quickly found an air car to travel in. The air car took off from the platform towards the Red City. After an hour, the air car landed directly in front of my house. I got out of the air car and walked towards my house after paying the bill. The door creaks open. I went inside and found my mother in the kitchen. She is preparing the food. When I noticed this, I placed the meat pack on the table. Mother Lila, on the other hand, turned back after hearing the footsteps. When she saw her son's expression, she immediately reprimanded him, saying, "You're always late. Why didn't you pick up when I called?" When I heard that, I coughed and explained, "I was busy practicing with my friend." "I'll practice." Mother Lila muttered something, but she had complete faith in her son. She could tell her son had changed since gaining his magical powers. He was almost obsessed with wizard practice. Then she said nothing and let her son go. She looked at the packet of seasoned meat after Vincent's back had vanished. She decided to use it the next day. At the same time, I exclaimed, "Phew, that was close." Then I went upstairs to my room. I didn't see Dad or brother in the living room on the way. I returned my gaze to my room. My first action was to enter the shower. Several minutes later, after taking a cold bath, I felt revitalized. Then I changed into something more comfortable. Sigh. As I lay down on my bed, I felt a sense of relief. What an adventure I've had today. I muttered something. It's completely mind-boggling, I told myself. Then, all of a sudden, I had an idea. It concerns the Adventurer's online store. In my heart, a spark of curiosity arose. I'm curious to see what they're selling there. I used my communication watch to access the online store. A small holographic screen appeared above the watch screen, displaying the online store's webpage. Then my eyes started scanning the products one by one. My gaze was drawn to the price of crystal gems. Crystal gems of various monsters were for sale. After giving it a quick glance, I moved on to other products. The store was stocked with artifacts, potions, liquids, potion ingredients, occult items, empty scrolls, magic spells, rune inscription items, and other magical items. Even though my face appeared calm, my heart was racing. Because the items were extremely costly. The most basic low mana recovery potion costs 10,000 alliance points. In comparison to the selling price, my 2,800 earned appears pitiful. I need to earn more money in order to buy even the most basic items from the online store. I seized items from Mason Terrell now that I think about it. I realized it was all of his life savings. Sudden realization struck me. Perhaps the hunter's profession isn't as exciting as I imagined. Then I considered the relic materials. Then I started looking for suitable relics to purchase. I start scanning the items one at a time. Surprisingly, the majority of them were ordinary relics. I couldn't even find a single unique relic or item. My heart felt a twinge of disappointment. The Adventurer Union only sells common magical items found throughout the world. Some items were, as expected, restricted to the masses. Some items appeared to be unattainable at my current level. After that, I closed the online store. I think about it. Right now, I believe it is best to save money. I don't have any other requirements besides training at Claudia Gym. I collapsed onto the bed due to exhaustion after retracting my thoughts from an online store. I immediately fell asleep as a wave of comfort washed over me. The following morning, I left for school early after eating breakfast. This time, I'm feeling a surge of confidence in my heart. I believe I am capable of handling any situation. As I walked down the street, I remembered Mason Terrell's storage bracelet. I haven't looked into other metallic boxes yet. Several ideas come to mind. Finally, I resolved to check those items during my next visit to Claudia's gym. Then I went online to check the availability of train tickets. If everything goes well, I'll be able to visit Claudia's gym and then return home in no time. I went to the ticket booking website's page. My eyes widened in surprise as I noticed the availability of seats. It's not filled as I imagined. Then I didn't waste any time in reserving my seat. For wizards, the ticket price is actually quite low, because the currency for wizards and regular humans differs. The currency system for wizards is known as alliance points, while the currency system for the general human population is known as credit points. One alliance point is equivalent to 1,000 credit points. So, in terms of normal human life, I actually feel richer. But the school fees are no laughing matter. To save money, both of my parents work day and night. I'd already decided to take care of my own expenses, including school fees. And if I receive the scholarship, it will alleviate some of the financial burden. Brian's image flashes before my eyes. I'm not sure what my older brother is up to these days. My curiosity about his magical academy grew. His magic academy is nothing like the usual bigwigs. However, it remains a local tyrant for neighboring provinces. I'm curious about what's going on inside his academy. Putting aside our differences, I need to talk to him. I'm looking for a channel where I can find magical items at a low cost. I didn't realize I'd arrived at school until I was lost in my thoughts. I then walked towards the school gate, retracting my thoughts. I went up to the waiting area as usual after walking inside. Earlier, I didn't pick up Lucas' calls because of a wilderness trip. Numerous thoughts come to mind. Did the school make any decisions about the new headmaster? I grunted. I sat in the chair after entering the waiting area. I have a hunch that something significant has occurred in these 2 days based on recent events. I believe Fatty will start blabbing about these things once he arrives. I closed my eyes and decided to wait. My thoughts wandered to the mana core region as I closed my eyes. I probed my own gravity mana core with mental strength. Gray-colored clouds can currently be seen occupying my mana core space. These clouds will materialize to form the mana core only after a series of breakthroughs in wizard level. I can feel gray clouds gathering together to form one massive cloud right now. These large clouds will eventually condense to form a core. I retracted my mental strength after inspecting the current state of the mana core. I felt a sense of accomplishment in my heart as I watched my progress. Orange level talent is no laughing matter. It is truly working wonders. I'm looking forward to seeing my faster progress later. After 5 minutes, Fat Lucas was running towards me when I noticed him. When he saw me, he broke out in a wide grin. "What happened to you these days, Brother Vincent?" he inquired. When I heard that, I politely lied and said, "I went to my relative's house." After that, I got up from my seat and we both walked towards the A-rank building. Fatty Lucas gave Vincent a smirk. He didn't even believe what he was hearing. But he can't make Vincent say anything if he doesn't want to. When I noticed Fatty's strange stare, I chuckled and said, "Let's go." We were both stopped by a few annoying people as we approached the lift after arriving at the A-rank building. "Wait!" a voice called out from behind me. Fatty and I turned around to face the crowd. As I looked at Chrissy Hart, Bruce Hill, and Mark Spears, my lips curved into arcs. We were all dressed in our school uniforms with blue mage robes on top. Chrissy Hart's face appeared expressionless when I saw her. But I get the impression from her eyes that she intends to murder me. Only Bruce and Mark appear to be angry. Bruce Hill was the one who yelled at me. "I really don't want to send you to the infirmary," I said with a smile. 3 of their faces twisted when they heard that. I gently reminded them of their past anguish. I had hoped that they would change their ways. But, after the Star Battle platform, I realized something. These people will bother me like bugs unless I demonstrate complete dominance. Especially since they received backing from Liam Barker. First, I need to thrash him. My eyes have a slight glint as I made up my mind to do that. I'm already planning on taking on Liam in combat class. The issue is that combat classes were not held on a regular basis. The majority of them took place on weekends. As a result, it will not be possible today. I'll have to wait a few more days before I can teach them proper lessons. At the same time, Lucas said, "I heard our school infirmary has been vacant recently. Why don't you go there?" He said it sarcastically. Mark Spears' face hardened as he heard Fatty's words. Because Vincent is strong, he can put up with Vincent's insults. But he's not going to put up with this fat guy. He felt an overwhelming desire to severely beat him down. Bruce's fist was clenched. He recalls the first conflict between the two groups. He was the one who had suffered the majority of them. Chrissy Hart bit her pink lips in rage. She can't stand it when Lucas cursed her. She recalls the last time she was beaten. Her bones were completely crushed. It took a long time for me to recover from that trauma. But she didn't act stupidly in front of Vincent. They aren't even accompanied by Liam. At the moment, none of them have the courage to face Vincent alone. If the fight breaks out, 3 of them will suffer as they did the last time. She gave Bruce a stern look and said, "Don't make any hasty decisions. Wait for them to go." When Bruce heard this, he nodded but said nothing. Vincent's magic was also known to him. It always made him feel dreadful. "At the very least, we can do something about Fat B at SD at RD," a Mark commented from nearby. Chrissy replied, "Not now," shaking her head in disapproval. Fatty Lucas laughed, turtles. I got black lines in my brow after hearing Fatty's contagious laughter. This individual. Don't expect me to come to your aid every time. Fatty's words only enraged them. I drag him to the lift right away. "I can handle them," I said as the lift's door closed. "So how about you? Don't come to me crying if you get ganged up on later," I added. He. Brother. I got excited all of a sudden, Fatty said, smiling. Sigh. After hearing that, I let out a small sigh. I suddenly realized something when the lift began to move. "Did anything interesting happen recently, by the way?" I inquired. I know Lucas is intelligent enough to understand without me explicitly stating it. Then, with a wide grin on his face, Lucas said, "So, I heard some strange things. But I'm not convinced." I said, raising my brows in surprise. "What is it?" They arrived on our floor before Lucas could respond. The door creaks open. We walked back to our class after exiting. Fatty felt it was inappropriate to speak in front of the students. This information is particularly pertinent to the school administration. "We'll talk about it at lunch," Lucas said. I nodded in agreement, but my curiosity was piqued. When he's talking to me, he usually doesn't mind the people around us. Interesting, I muttered. Then we went into class. I discovered that half of the students had arrived. We both sat in our seats quickly. Chrissy soon joined the other 2 students in class. The trio didn't even look our way. Instead, they sat in their seats. In my eyes, a curious glint appears. Liam Baker was obviously up to something the last time when I saw him. However, because of new developments at the time, his plans must have failed. I'm curious whether he'll resume his plans. It's important to keep an eye on him, especially the people with whom he converses. Then I turned my attention to the students. Students entered the classroom one by one. Except for the top wizards, the majority of the class was filled within a few minutes. As the time passed, the top wizards began to arrive. I raised my brows when Liam Baker stepped in. I noticed him walking towards his seat without much expression. His weekend appears to have gone well for him. Then I began to notice other high-ranking wizards. I said, a burly silhouette as he entered the classroom. Curiosity made me squint my eyes. I mumbled, Easton Brown, 11th ranker. Easton Brown, instead of going to his seat, approached Liam Baker and greeted him. This single action surprised me greatly. When did he join Liam's inner circle? My brow furrowed in perplexity. Easton Brown is the 11th rank holder and Liam is the 10th rank holder. Under normal circumstances, they should be standing opposite each other. What is going on now? Several ideas come to mind. I was previously aware of Easton Brown's actions toward me. 2 days ago, nothing was said. However, I noticed a fighting spirit in his eyes. I thought he was excited about the Star Battle platform at that time. But right now, after observing their interaction, I believe it is something else. Easton Brown might point his gun at me. Besides, I have to say that I'm excited to put my current abilities to the test after the talent upgrade. And he's the perfect sandbag for me. My eyes have a slight glint. Fatty Lucas, who was sitting next to Vincent, on the other hand, couldn't help but notice Vincent's change in expression. He knows when Vincent sits up straight, it means he's ready for a new challenge. These are his observations only. When the event occurs, he wants to see for himself whether his observations were correct or not. He paid close attention to Vincent's actions. Alternatively, Easton Brown, while ruffling his hair, said, Liam, thanks for sending some herbs. Liam, on the other hand, was taken aback by his unexpected greeting. He was concerned Vincent would notice something. So he quickly suppressed his emotions and looked Easton in the eyes. It's just herbs, Liam replied. Don't bring it up. I'd like to speak with you about something. So I'll see you after break, he added. Easton's eyes light up with a quick glint. He understood what was going on. So he politely nodded before returning to his own seat. The small interaction between the 10th and 11th grade students bothers none of the students. It's not unusual. Some strike deals in order to change the rankings. Few of them believed Liam was abusing his wealth. Easton Brown sat comfortably in his seat. There are only a few minutes until the teacher arrives. Easton's mind is racing with ideas at this point. He wasn't able to challenge Vincent the last time because of a change in circumstances. Nonetheless, Liam had sent him some potion ingredients, such as herbs. Any denial will no longer be possible. He must comply with Liam's request. As Vincent's image flashed before his eyes, Easton cast a slight glance to the right, where Vincent was sitting. After a few seconds, he retracted his gaze. Offending sub-taboo powers is bad. But no one can say anything during friendly sparring, Easton thought to himself, his small brain already making plans to fight Vincent. Alternatively, what is this sensation? As I felt a sudden gaze on my back, I muttered. It's not something new to me. I occasionally feel the gazes of students on my back. But the majority of them were just passing glances. But this time I'm feeling differently. As a result, I craned my neck to follow the line of sight. Easton Brown unexpectedly appeared in my vision. After confirming something, my lips curved into gentle arcs. Then I went back to my original spot. After all, it was just an assumption. I'm now 40% certain that Easton will take action against me. Let's see what new tricks Liam and his team devise. At this point, the remaining top-ranked wizards, including Danny Quinn and Brent Dale, have joined the class. Eric Wallace, the class teacher, must now arrive to begin the class. I cast a sidelong glance at Liam and his group, and I overheard Chrissy Hart bemoaning Liam Baker. This poisonous BTCH has good acting skills, I grumbled, shaking my head in disgust. It's no surprise they can keep Liam in their midst. My mind has become much calmer now that I have a better idea of who I will be dealing with. Eric Waller entered the classroom as I was lost in thought. Harumph, he said, which surprised me. What happened this time? The teacher was in a bad mood. Then I turned to the fatty and asked, do you know anything? Lucas Brad had black lines across his brow when he heard that. How am I supposed to know, brother? He responded. But don't worry, he'll start confessing his sins to us soon, ha ha ha. Lucas added. He let out a hearty laugh after saying that. When I heard that, I cracked a small smile. Because Fatty's words contained some truth. Eric, the teacher, is a terrible secret keeper. If the students here apply enough pressure on him, he will reveal everything to us. I'm also interested in the changes that have occurred after Star Battle platform. I remember Judy Owens, the girl who stole all the attention. I'm curious what happened to her. Then I lifted my head to look at teacher Eric. Eric Wallace, on the other hand, is in a bad mood. But he was professional enough to keep his emotions hidden from the students. He began taking the class after quickly taking attendance. But, as I had predicted, some people couldn't help but be curious. Frank Lambert raised his hand to ask a question which I noticed. PFFF. When everyone saw this, some of the students burst out laughing. The contagious laughter made the rest of them laugh as well. Ah. Brother, as I mentioned just now, Fatty Lucas spoke up next to me. How? I said something. I'm not sure if Frank has genuine doubts or is purposefully making things difficult for Eric. Lucas Brett overhead Vincent Mutter. So he responded, everyone wants to know what happened after Star Battle platform, brother. Because any changes will have a direct impact on top wizards. As a result, among the top wizards, Frank is the most impatient. As a result, everyone knows he'll ask the question sooner or later, Lucas added. When I heard that, I nodded to him. I almost underestimated the seriousness of the situation. Perhaps because I'm a newcomer, it didn't hit me as hard. It's a different story for senior students. I noticed Frank was ecstatic about it. Brent, Danny, and Victoria sitting there silently watching everything. Sigh. Eric Wallace realizes that continuing the class without disclosing some information to them is impossible. He needs to tell them something as a teacher, because it will increase students' liking for him. He then straightened his back and stood up straight. As he crossed the street, he looked around. Cough, he said, breaking the awkward silence. I'm not sure what happened after that event, he added. Because everyone immediately returned to their homes. Boo-hoo. Some students start booing. They were dissatisfied with the teacher's responses. Frank was also wearing an unflattering expression. He immediately inquired, Teacher, come on, I'm sure you've heard a couple of things. It's fine if it's gossip. Some of the students began to mimic his words as well, particularly Frank's friends. When Eric Wallace heard that, he immediately wanted to smash Frank. But he quickly regained control. He then said, silence. Which immediately brought everyone to a halt. When Eric notices that the weather has returned to normal, he says, I believe we will have a new headmaster by this weekend. Gasp. In this room, there was a loud exclamation. Frank sat back in his seat, satisfied with the news. He was actually curious about the Star Battle platform. However, he is smart enough not to cross the bottom line. Eric, the great teacher, decided to reveal the news to them ahead of time. So he didn't want to bother him any longer. This news surprised top wizards at the same time. The new headmaster's appointment means a lot of things. For example, getting approval for a monster hunting trip and allowing resources on time both require the permission of the headmaster. No one would have cared if it had happened earlier, but Chairman Benjamin's recent actions had everyone perplexed. As a result, some of the top wizards are baffled. Alternatively, is this news correct? I moved my gaze to Fatty, but I discovered that he was as surprised as I was. Lucas shakes his head in disapproval. Actually, I'm not sure about this. In perplexity, I raised my brows. So you got any other information? I inquired. Fatty quickly nodded his head in my direction. When I saw that, a small smile appeared on my face. I'm excited to ask him during the break. Our conversation was not heard because of the ongoing commotion. After a while, the commotion in the classroom subsided. Eric, the teacher, went on with his lecture as usual. Fatty Lucas informed me that he had some additional information to share with me. So I'm looking forward to some downtime. Time passes and Teacher Eric left the classroom after the first class ended. The history teacher soon entered the classroom and began his lesson. As time passed, break time approached. After 2 hours. Time for a break. As the class came to an end, I turned to Fatty and asked him to come with me. Because it is break time, some students begin to leave the classroom. We followed them out of the classroom. I chose a quiet place for our conversation. Then we both walked to the school balcony. Can you tell me now? I asked when I arrived at the location. Fatty's expression caught my attention. Because he returned to his usual witty expression. Coughed, brother, I heard our school is going to form a new class, Lucas said with a cough. When I heard that, I raised my brows. Fatty continued, it's called a special class, before I could ask for an explanation. Judy Owens was the first student to enroll in the special education class, he added. Storms formed in my heart. Aside from students, creating a class is not an easy job. The school should provide resources. Judy Owens' statistics panel came to mind. She has an unusual physique and a glass power attribute. I held up my chin in contemplation. I can see where Chairman Benjamin is going, now that I have this information. He is most likely attempting to unlock their magic, which is restricted by their talent. My heart was filled with gratitude, but my eyes were filled with trepidation. The chairman has the courage to do so. It's a wise decision, but he must use school resources in the process. I'm not sure how it will turn out if others find out. Brother, you're thinking too much about it, Fatty Lucas said, interrupting my thoughts. This is not official information, but rather word of mouth. It is difficult to establish a special class in our school. Sigh. His words returned me to reality. After a small sigh, I realized this was not my problem. Why am I dwelling on it so much? Even the chairman attempts to intervene. He will not venture near Class A1's resources. I'm fairly certain of it. While we were talking, my eyes were drawn to the silhouettes of two students approaching us. We have visitors, I grumbled. Fatty noticed my reaction and turned in the opposite direction when he heard that. What are they up to now? He demanded vengefully. When I see Liam Baker and Easton Brown approaching, I get a quick glint in my eyes. And my gaze was drawn to the poisonous woman, who was also trailing the two with her friends. I could smell trouble. I approached the fatty and said, okay, they're going to cause some havoc. Whatever happens, don't get in the way. I'll look after it. You underestimate me, Brother Vincent. I'm not a wimp either, Lucas expressed his displeasure. When I heard that, I laughed and said, aha, ha, ha, alright, let's see what they're going to do. I'm also excited to put my new sandbag to the test. System, investigate the details of Easton Brown. I instructed the system. Ding. The host's command is recognized. Ding. The command is initiated. Ding. Level up system. Status panel. Target's name, Easton Brown. Magic power, iron physique. Mage level 1 limiter. Core status, 36%. Mana power, 500/600. Talent, middle top. Color, deep green. Strength, -35. Speed, 31. Stamina, 35. Vitality, 36. Intelligence, 32. Soul power, 31. Constitution, 34. Mental power, 35. Mental method, Iron Body Art, Advanced Grade. Spells, 2. 1. Iron Fist 2. Iron Cover. In front of my eyes, a blue status panel appeared. When I saw the data, my pupils condensed for a brief moment. Why didn't he challenge this guy, who is clearly stronger than Liam? Easton Brown's stats are all well above 30. If I'm not mistaken, this guy ranks between the 8th and 9th in terms of power. My brow furrowed in displeasure. Liam really hired a top dog to threaten me this time. Then I turned to Fatty and said, Easton Brown is a strong opponent. Just bear it for a moment if he tries to provoke you. All I need is a few months to get stronger. Then we can deal with them. Lucas Brad was taken aback when he heard Vincent's words. Nonetheless, he quickly grasped the meaning and nodded at me. I took a quick look at his magic at the same time. This isn't your typical power mage. Physique wizards have their own attributes-based categories as well. Easton's physique is a metal attribute in this situation. It is heavily geared towards defense. His statistics reflect this as well. I requested a sandbag, but this is far too much. My mind immediately went into action. It's not like I don't believe I can beat him. In comparison to his other stats, his speed is low. I can use it in my gravitational field. But the issue is that I don't want to put myself out there. So far, everyone believes I have mid-grade talent. If I reveal my rapid progress now, it will draw the attention of unwelcome people. Then I decided not to confront him on the school grounds. If he dares to mess with me, I'll have to find another way to get rid of him outside. Some time ago. Looks like you've made some progress, Liam said to Easton with a knowing smile. Easton had already changed, according to Liam. He is not the same as he was 2 days ago. Easton had to have consumed some potions to increase his strength, Liam realized. Liam's eyes shine with an envious glint. Many wizards think twice before relying on potions to improve their abilities. However, this is not the case with power wizards. Their physique gives them strength. As a result, in order to stimulate the physique, they must consume more potions. However, one disadvantage is that unless you have good talent and a supportive background, moving forward on the path of physique wizardry will be difficult. Easton Brown, on the other hand, did not respond to Liam's words. Liam had previously provided some materials. He had already set aside some resources for an emergency. Liam's unexpected assistance allowed him to consume the old resources without hesitation. Liam's thoughts were confirmed when he saw Easton Brown's wide grin. Easton Brown can now challenge himself as well. However, he has recently made significant progress. As a result, he is unsure who will win if Easton and he fight. Then Liam put his thoughts aside and turned to face Easton. It's time to start teaching Vincent some lessons. Right now, Easton has a clear advantage over Vincent. The issue is that there is no immediate combat class scheduled. He and Easton Brown walked out of class while thinking. Liam noticed Vincent and Lucas exiting the classroom a few moments ago. It's not a good idea to confront Vincent without a proper setup. He also needs some face as a class monitor. He is not wise to directly bully the newcomer. When he was lost in thought, Easton asked, "So, what's your plan?" When Liam heard this, he chuckled and said, "Obviously, we can't take the initiative to hurt him, because this plan had failed the previous time. Last time, he remembered being on the verge of thrashing Vincent. But then security guard Marcus Cole appeared and saved Vincent. He was not only caught red-handed, but former headmaster Collins and teacher Eric both chastised him. Harumph, he snorted, remembering the previous failure. Easton Brown, on the other hand, suspected something was wrong with Liam. Liam abruptly retracts his thoughts as a vicious thought forms in his mind. He immediately turned to Easton Brown and said, "You go ahead and irritate Vincent Carey. I'll be watching from the sidelines. It would be preferable if he lost his cool and attacked you first." Easton Brown was stunned for a brief moment. Then he realizes Liam's plan. It's an old-school way of insulting someone with harsh words. But because he owes him, Easton Brown decided to listen to him. He nodded before looking for Vincent. They soon noticed Vincent and Lucas conversing on the balcony. Easton Brown smiled broadly when he saw this. Then he approached them slowly. Liam followed the line of sight as well. Observing that Vincent was not far away, Liam laughed and followed Easton. He can't wait to see the fantastic show that is about to begin. Liam had no idea Chrissy Hart and her two friends were watching his every move. They knew something was up when they saw Liam discussing it with the 11th ranker, Easton Brown. Liam had not previously revealed his plan to them. Chrissy Hart, on the other hand, couldn't keep her curiosity at bay. She needed to check the situation right away, so the three of them followed Liam quietly. Instead of Liam Baker, Easton Brown approached me. There's no need to guess, he's clearly coming to challenge me. My lips curved into a gentle arc as I considered how to make a fool of him. Are you Vincent Carey? Easton Brown was curious. He realizes he's asking a stupid question. But this is the first time he is speaking with Vincent. So he doesn't know how to strike a conversation first. No, I said as I turned to face them. Easton Brown was surprised, then embarrassed. He realizes Vincent is making fun of him on purpose. I know you were Vincent Carey. And I've heard you're tough. So I'd like to test my abilities against yours, Easton said with a smile. Despite this, he secretly wishes Vincent would lose his cool. When I heard that, I looked over at the fatty beside me. We both burst out laughing. The sight of Easton Brown's smile faded. He had a glum expression on his face as he looked at us. This is exactly what I desired. This guy truly believes I will respond to his challenge. I knew he'd be a good opponent after seeing his status. But I don't want to fight him right now because of my future plans. Easton had finally come to believe that he was being looked down upon. His blood boils with rage. Veins began to appear on his brow. He now understands why Liam desired to harm Vincent Carey. He is a newcomer, but he did not even acknowledge the senior students. Liam Baker, on the other hand, was keeping a close eye on the entire situation. When he noticed Vincent and Lucas making fun of Easton, he realized his plan had failed. But then his face changes to a sly smile. Because Vincent Carey has now offended someone else. Easton will cause them more trouble in the coming days, he knows. How come you're laughing? Easton Brown was furious. He takes a slow step towards Vincent Carey. Hearing his words, I suppressed my laughter and said, I've been in class A1 for a week. And you're expecting me to fight you? Are you insane or what? I used a firm tone this time. I'm hoping he gets it and leaves this place. I'm not sure what Liam did to persuade him. But if he crosses the line, I'll have to devise a strategy to make him understand. You! Easton yelled angrily as he pointed his finger at me. The issue was that he couldn't refute the newcomer's claims. If combat teacher Freeman hears it, he will lose his face. As a result, he is unable to continue the conversation. He realizes that he came here to provoke this person, now he has been schooled instead. He clenched his teeth in rage. A few students returning from break noticed these too. They immediately gathered to watch the fun. Easton Brown's expression darkened as he realized his classmates were watching. He didn't want this issue to spread. So he made the decision to deal with Vincent outside. He snorted and said, "Harumph." He immediately left the location. He didn't forget to look at Vincent before leaving. I laughed as I noticed Easton getting his nose cut and walking back. "Ha ha ha, brother, you solved it very easily," Lucas laughed quietly. I nodded when I heard that. But, given Easton Brown's disappearance, I believe he will return. "Let's go to class," I uttered. After saying that, I returned to class with Lucas. Liam, on the other hand, had already returned to class after seeing that it wasn't going anywhere. He hoped for an immediate clash, but like always, he met with disappointment. He then went back to his seat. Liam was startled to notice an intense stare from behind him. Chrissy Hart and others were looking at him with a puzzled expression. He suddenly realized that these three people had to have witnessed that minor incident. When he realized this, he was very disappointed. They are not required to be involved in this matter. Because Liam is already aware that these three had a falling out with Vincent Carey. If the class teacher notices them arguing with Vincent, he will be the one to be reprimanded. As a result, he was unaffected by their curious stare. Seeing as Chrissy Hart and others are at a loss for words, they can't make Liam say anything if he doesn't want to. At the same time, Easton Brown entered the classroom, his face solemn. Liam smiled on the inside when he saw his appearance. Outside, however, he wore an unflattering expression. He rose from his seat and approached Easton. "I thought the newcomer only didn't respect me, but it looks like he didn't even consider you much of an opponent." Liam said this with a blank expression on his face. Easton Brown's face darkened when he heard that. He looked Liam in the eyes and said, "I'll take care of him later. So you don't have to be concerned." Hearing that, Liam laughed in his heart, but remained calm on the outside and replied, "I know you will take care of him. Fighting against power-type wizards is not easy even for top rankers. But remember not to get caught by the school's security guard," Liam added. "They will not be merciful." Easton's eyes light up with a quick glint. Why do I get the impression he's had a previous experience? Easton Brown thought to himself, then nodded at him. Easton Brown needs some alone time right now, so he went to his seat. He needed to think about how he was going to take care of Vincent Carey now, so he sat back in his seat and looked towards the entrance. Vincent and Lucas entered a few seconds later. Easton's eyes became enraged when he saw this. He knows Liam is using him against Vincent deep down. Nonetheless, Vincent's demeanor irritated him greatly. Unless he thrashes Vincent, his heart will not be at ease. Following that, various thoughts arise. Easton Brown realized what Liam reminded him of. Thrashing Vincent on the school grounds is bad. If school officials find out, he could be expelled. Vincent, as a sub-taboo magic user, is also likely to have joined a good organization. It is not wise for his future if they are aware of a matter. Finally, he decided to confront Vincent outside of the school grounds. At the same time, Easton decided to keep distance from Liam Baker. He is extremely uneasy speaking with him. Easton made the decision not to tell Liam until he had completed his plan. The day before, headquarters of the police wizards. After a long time, Leon Willie opened his eyes. He was struck hard before going unconscious. His heart was boiling with rage as he slowly remembered what had happened. Since he was imprisoned here, he occasionally noticed the movements of a level 5 wizard outside his prison cell. He assumed one of them had heard his scream the previous time. He muttered under his breath, "A hateful." His mana circulation is now restricted. Previously, he could only use a small portion of his mental power. However, greeting a hard hit made him suffer even more. If it hadn't been for this level 5 artifact, which had frozen his wrists, he will not hesitate to blow himself up. That alone has the potential to kill any wizards who are present in this building. A small smile appeared on his face as he reflected on that grand spectacle. But it's a shame. These old sly foxes will not allow him to do so. Leon is well aware that everyone is suspicious of him. It's already a miracle that they are keeping him in this prison cell rather than killing him right away. Leon sneered from within. He would not respond to the police wizards no matter what. He was lost in his thoughts when he heard footsteps approaching his prison cell. Leon Willie assumed it was another level 5 wizard. They make the rounds now and then. Be at SD at RD, he muttered as he closed his eyes. He decided to put on a show, so that he can avoid another random attack. The sound of footsteps grew louder as the seconds passed. He heard several footsteps at the same time. He noticed that there were more people this time. Could it be someone else? He reflected to himself. The 3 individuals soon arrived in front of the heavily fortified prison cell. Billy Woods, Dale Berg, and Eva Rich were among them. 2 level 5 wizards and 1 level 3 wizard decided to convict Leon Willie right away. Dale Berg acted quickly to open the prison gate. However, Leon sensed the presence of 2 level 5 wizards. Leon Willie shivered on the inside. He has a sudden feeling that something bad is going to happen to him. Outside, when Dale Berg acted, a magical circle in the shape of a runic pentagram lit up immediately from the prison door. Dale Berg saw this and used his mental strength to deactivate the runic pentagrams. With his mental sense, he immediately touched one of the runic signs. As a result, the magic circle was deactivated. You can easily understand the grade 5 magic circle if you have a medium level of expertise in the subject of runes. A slight glint flashes in Wizard Billy Wood's eyes as he observes Dale Berg's quick operation. In his opinion, there has been some progress. Normally, Dale Berg would take his time analyzing. But he's quick this time. Every day, the magic circle is arranged in a different pattern for security reasons. Wizard Billy looked at him with a different gaze this time. Little Stargate High School. The bell rang throughout the school, signaling the end of classes. Students start to leave the room. When I noticed this, I tapped Fatty on the shoulder and asked him to follow me. I felt Easton's gaze on me the entire day today. I have a hunch that this guy couldn't keep his cool. He will eventually turn against me. So I didn't let my guard down. We left the school a few minutes later. I noticed complicated Fatty eyes on the way. He appeared to be considering asking a question. But I stopped him and told him to keep an eye on his back on his way home. When I saw Fatty's back disappear, I muttered, "He's not as stupid as he appears." A small smile appeared on my face as a result of this, because I clearly guessed his intent. Fatty wished to assist me by remaining by my side. He didn't say it out loud, but I believe he had reservations about my strength. As a fellow newcomer, he's entitled to believe that I can't compete with senior students. I'm not going to answer his questions. So I decided it was best if he left. Despite the fact that he is a good friend of mine, I am not going to reveal my abilities to him. There are numerous points where I am unsure, especially in terms of how he gathers information. Then, retracting my thoughts, I turned to face the school's entrance. Students were leaving the school. My gaze scanned the crowd for Easton Brown, Liam Baker, and his other minions. I had planned to go to Claudia Gym before coming to school. However, after hearing Easton's intentions, I believe there is a need for a change of plans. I couldn't help but raise my eyebrows when I thought they were taking their time leaving. Fatty and I usually take some time before returning home. They must be waiting for a good opportunity to show up. Several ideas come to mind. I'm still not sure what to do about Easton if he decides to fight. I cocked up my chin and thought. First, let's take a look at what they're up to. Then I think about a suitable plan. Then I decided to observe their movements from a distance. Easton Brown left the school by himself a few minutes later. The first thing he did was take a look around him. Then he took a step in the right direction. When I realized this, my lips curved into a gentle arc. If my guess is correct, that guy is on his way to a popular restaurant on this street where Fatty and I used to eat manna food. How did he get the intelligence for our activity? My eyes twinkled with delight. Then I didn't follow him carelessly. I'm curious to see what he'll do next. Will he leave once he notices that we are not present? Or is he going to have another conversation with Liam Baker? In my heart, a spark of curiosity arose. It's a lot of fun to see what your opponents are up to. My eyes caught a glimpse of people while I was lost in my thoughts, and they were unaware. Liam Baker, Chrissy Hart, Bruce Hill, and Mark Spears all left the school at the same time. The ugly trio never leave the shadow of Liam Baker. I sneered inside as I saw Chrissy Hart and her friends. Then I noticed Liam's downcast expression, which made me smile. It appears that he is aware of their intentions, but he chose to ignore them. What a jerk! I grumbled. Each person's abacus is distinct from the others. In other words, it's difficult to find pure-hearted wizards in my class. Lucas, too, has his own methods of getting things done. After that, I retracted my thoughts and focused my attention on their movements. Surprisingly, an argument erupted out of nowhere. I couldn't hear their conversation because of the distance. but I see Liam Baker pointing his finger at them while muttering something. I'm not sure what, but I can see the trio's hideous expressions in a split second. Sometimes I think minions are more dangerous than bosses. Even if Liam doesn't want to cause a commotion, it appears that these people will not let him. What kind of friend circle is this? I sneered. At the same time, Easton Brown exited the restaurant, disappointed. When I notice this, my gaze shifts back and forth between them. It feels good to be able to observe such an ongoing drama from behind the scenes. I have a feeling these people will notice each other. Easton Brown then happened to catch a glimpse of Liam's argument with his group. Seeing that his face had darkened immediately, he decided to return home right away. When Easton saw Liam and his group, my eyes widened with surprise. But then, instead of meeting them, that guy walked away from the spot. Easton's actions took me completely by surprise. I assumed they were in collusion with each other, but Easton's expression says otherwise. What exactly is going on? Is there a new source of contention between them? Several ideas come to mind. But for the time being, it's beneficial to me. Easton chose to leave, which saved me a lot of time. Claudia's gym is now open to me. I straightened my back and sent a message to my parents about my trip. There is no longer any reason to hide. If my parents are curious, I can freely reveal my hunter identity. It's a lot better than working part-time at the Wizard Police Department. After sending the message, I looked over at Liam and his group, who were still arguing. I chose to walk away from this place, shaking my head in disapproval. Soon after, I noticed an air cab waiting for passengers on the street. When I saw that, I dashed over to it and jumped inside the car. The air car then rose from the ground and flew towards the destination. Several minutes later, the air cab arrived at the train station. I quickly entered the station and proceeded to my platform. I know it will be late at night when I get home. So I decided to train for a shorter time in Claudia's gym. This way, when I get home, I can get good sleep. Several hours later. Claudia Gym. After a long journey, I arrived in front of the Claudia Gym. It's a good thing Claudia Gym is open all day. Otherwise, especially on this trip, I need to take a day off. I walked back to the front desk, retracing my steps. I noticed a middle-aged man sitting behind the desk this time. I informed him of my intention to use the mana chamber for 2 hours. But, as usual, the cost of practicing inside the mana chamber hurt my feelings. 500 alliance points per hour, so I'll have to spend 1,000 alliance points right now. It's no surprise that people usually use mana chambers after joining an academy or adventurer guild. This is too much of a burden for schoolchildren to bear. After paying the fee, I received the code from the staff after retracting my thoughts. After entering the building, I took the elevator to the second floor. The door creaks open. After stepping outside, I discovered a few others on this floor beside me. I have no doubt they are hunters based on their costumes. As I walked past them, a few of them looked at me. Because I was wearing my school uniform and the school's blue mage robe is well known throughout the city. I now understand why the front desk took a long look at me before giving me the access code. After getting past them, I entered the mana chamber room without thinking about them. Then I entered the access code to open the door. Creak, said the door. The door behind me closed automatically as I walked inside. As I looked around, a small ecstasy rose in my heart. I haven't practiced here in a long time. The small sound reverberates throughout the room. When I heard that, I looked up to see the inlet. The entire room will be filled with dense mana in a matter of seconds. Without further ado, I walked to the center and sat cross-legged. Dense mana began to flow from the massive inlet in a matter of seconds. Simultaneously, I focused on the gravity arc method. When I noticed a greater concentration of mana around me, I immediately began practicing mental methods. In my heart, a spark of curiosity arose. I was curious about the effectiveness of orange grade talent. When the mental method kicks in, I feel as if I'm surrounded by a gray color mist. I'm at a loss for words to describe how I feel. Then I gradually began to circulate the mana. My body began to absorb the surrounding gray mana at an alarming rate. This unexpected movement surprised me. But the next second I calmed down and resumed my practice.